Hey guys, this is Infinity No What Ifs. I hope you are doing well. Please support to subscribe this channel to watching new interesting stories and to get all videos in real time. Please subscribe. So in this video, we will see third part, what if Naruto was descended from and trained by Tobirama. Here is short summary. Uzumaki Naruto meets the Kyuubi at an early age. During one of the chases, he stumbles upon a house. What he finds in that house changes his life forever. Watch as he grows into his heritage and receives training from someone long past. But before we start, if you want more stuff like this, then be sure to subscribe and like this video. And if possible, share this video with your friends. Now let's start the story. It took a day for Kakashi to regain consciousness. Naruto had begun healing him after dinner while his clones had set up traps and barriers around the house. He had also dutifully healed any outward injury and had a soldier pill on standby, helped Tsunami cook dinner and kept a watch on Kakashi while Sakura and Sasuke. Well, they didn't do anything significant. Sasuke trained. Sakura did too, but not as much. She only did a little before sitting on a rock and watching Sasuke with hearts in her eyes. What they didn't know was that 30 of Naruto's shadow clones, divided into 3 groups, were learning the 3 new jutsu Naruto brought with him far deep into the forest, while another 5 were scouting the village. Naruto was in Kakashi's room, observing the map of Gato's bases from his Fuin bracelets while his clone drew up ideas for new types of flash tags and explosive tags. He was drawing the map when he noticed Kakashi's breath hitch. Sealing up his sealing supplies and dispelling the clone, he walked over to Kakashi and knelt down, activating the Shozen Jutsu mystical palm technique to check for abnormalities. Finding none, he placed a palm on his sensei's head, causing his eyes to open. "Sensei," he whispered. He saw as Kakashi opened his eyes with a groan, persisting even when the light seemed to burn through his eye. After finally opening his eye, he looked around and assessed that they had safely made it to Tezuna's home. He figured that his genin might have gotten pretty bored, especially Sasuke, if the occasional tremors indicating Sasuke's great fireball to burn off some steam. He looked to the side, seeing a mildly concerned Naruto looking down at him with his azure blues. He was reminded of another blonde who used to give him the same look. He pushed that aside and smiled cheerily. "Oh hello, Naruto." A small smile came onto his face. "About time you woke up. How are you feeling?" "Sore, but I'm fine otherwise." Naruto then took out a sealing tag and put it on the back of Kakashi's neck. Kakashi was about to protest when he suddenly felt 3/4 of his chakra being replenished. His fatigue had somewhat reduced as well. He looked at the boy curiously. "What was that?" "Oh, that was a chakra storage seal. It can replenish your chakra reserves quickly and doesn't have the disadvantage of tasting bad like the soldier pills. I made them myself to not have to eat those soldier pills until they make some edible and tasty ones," he said with a grimace. The silver-haired Jonin looked at his genin in wonder. He had pretty much gotten rid of the need for soldier pills with his chakra storage seals. Now that he thought about it, the Hokage had issued similar seals to his Anbu members recently, saying they were from the new seal master in Konoha. Kakashi now knew that seal master was Naruto, but before he was about to ask, Naruto seemed to have read his mind as he said, "The fact that I'm a seal master is only known to Hokage-sama, Jiraiya-sama and the Anbu, along with Anko-sensei and Hinata-chan, considering that there may be some unwelcome people around." Kakashi nodded, knowing that spies were around. It seemed one of his students had trained the right way. Naruto stood up. "Now that you're awake, I'll alert the others." He walked over to the window and saw what he had been seeing for the past one day. Sakura was sitting on the ground and having hearts in her eyes and Sasuke blowing off trees. He decided to break their peace. "Hey Sakura, duckbutt." He ignored Kakashi's snort at the nickname. "Sensei is awake." With that he went back to Kakashi's side, not checking if they were coming or not. 2 minutes later, Sakura and Sasuke walked through the door, coming to stand in front of their sensei. Sakura sat down in a whirl of pink and red, exclaiming in relief, "Sensei, you're awake." Naruto quietly scoffed and looked to the side. She was saying it as if she was the one looking after him, skipping her training. Quick to claim others' credit, isn't she? Kurama's voice spoke, faintly lined with disgust. Naruto mentally rose an eyebrow. "Quite the long nap you took." Then he shrugged. "Also,
She's not taking credit, she's just useless. She just wants to be seen doing something. I'm actually glad Sensei keeps his Sharingan covered, otherwise he would hate to accidentally copy her uselessness. He commented, prompting a snort of laughter from the fox.
Kakashi decided to find out what he had missed. So, what happened after I went down? Sakura spoke up before Naruto could. Well, after you went down, we carried you to Tazuna-san's house. You've been out for a day, Kakashi-sensei. We've just been training and guarding the house. Naruto kept quiet, not wanting to look petty by pointing out the mistakes in Sakura's speech. What they didn't know wouldn't hurt them. He decided to speak up. Sensei, we're gonna have to train to fight Zabuza again, he said with a serious look on his face.
Sasuke turned to him, an eyebrow raised as if mocking him. Zabuza died when that hunter Nin hit him with the Senbon. Or did you forget that, Dobi? Sakura nodded, as always, in favor of Sasuke. Does she even think for herself? He thought irritably. Naruto shook his head. I never forget, Sasuke. But you probably have forgotten what we read about Hunter Nin in the academy. They are supposed to destroy the body on the spot, not take it away. Also, the Senbon hit a very specific spot, in the back of the neck. He trailed off, opting for Kakashi to continue.
Sakura scoffed. Please Naruto, Sensei checked and there was no pulse. I'm afraid Naruto is right, Sakura. It is very much possible that Zabuza is still alive, Kakashi said grimly. Sakura and Sasuke had disbelieving expressions, letting Kakashi continue. The back of the neck where the Senbon hit. I think that the Nin most likely put Zabuza in a death-like state, which is most likely why I couldn't find a pulse as it was so weak. He further explained, the weapon that Nin used has a low fatality rate unless it hits a critical spot. The Nin took Zabuza with him, even though Zabuza was much heavier than him. Also, he used a weapon with low fatality rate. With these 2 points, we can conclude that the Nin wanted to help Zabuza. Tazuna looked skeptical. Is it possible that you're overthinking this? Kakashi's reply was swift. No, once a ninja feels that there's something out of place, they must prepare for it before it's too late. Naruto folded his arms across his chest. So how long do you think we have, Kakashi-sensei? He didn't feel like revealing his medical knowledge to his teammates yet. Kakashi rubbed his chin in thought and said, I'd say, about 1 week. He'll need that much time to come back to full strength from a death-like state. I'll need a day or 2 at most. Sakura gave him a look as if he was crazy. Sensei, how are we supposed to train if you're to rest? Kakashi gave her an eye smile. Not to worry, my cute lil Genin. A crutch is all I need to train you. And I'll be back to full strength by the day after tomorrow. Excuse me, everyone, dinner is ready. A voice came from the door and all of them turned to look at Tsunami, who was wiping her hands with a towel. Kakashi eyes smiled and asked her, hello, you might be. Tsunami smiled, oh, you've finally woken up. Naruto-kun took good care of you then. He looked at Naruto who looked away with an impassive face, arms crossed, but the faint blush on his cheeks gave him away. Kakashi resisted the urge to ruffle his hair, because the kid looked damn cute right now. Anyway, I'm Tsunami, Tazuna's daughter. Pleased to meet you. She bowed. Kakashi bowed as much as he could while sitting. Pleased to meet you too, Tsunami-san. Tsunami turned to Naruto. Please help your sensei down, Naruto-kun. And thank you for your shadow clone's help in the kitchen. Naruto waved his hand. They're an excellent kitchen crew for me too. Don't mention it. With that, Sakura and Sasuke filed out of the room, not even bothering to help Kakashi up. Naruto gave a disgusted shake of his head and stood up. Putting Kakashi's left arm over his shoulders, he helped him up, supporting his full weight like it was nothing. Thank you, Naruto, for taking care of me. Kakashi murmured, eyes smiling. It was quite weird for him. Only 2 people cared for him like Naruto did, and they were both Naruto's parents. What also nagged him was that he had felt a soothing sensation sometimes, which he used to feel back when Rin would heal him when they were genin. Could Naruto know medical ninjutsu? He would have to ask later. Naruto shook his head, smiling. You are my sensei. I didn't do it because it was my duty to take care of you like you do. I did it because I wanted to. Kakashi gazed at Naruto with a wide eye, who ignored it, and slowly helped the man downstairs. Using a little bit of his restored strength, he pulled Naruto into a one-armed hug. Naruto initially stiffened, but relaxed after a few seconds. No words needed to be spoken. He helped Kakashi sit on the table and sat beside him, close in case he needed to feed him. The small gesture caused Tsunami to smile. Such a sweet boy. Kakashi couldn't stop the eye smile. He didn't show it, but he was glad that there was someone like Naruto to care for him. Kami knows he had no one left close to him now. This feeling made him want to do everything not to disappoint Naruto.
Naruto gazed at the small boy who was sitting beside Tazuna. Somehow, he cast a somber atmosphere around him. Half of his face was hidden beneath his hat. Tazuna smiled and spoke up. Inari, greet these nice ninjas. They will make sure I'm safe while building my super bridge.
Inari looked up and Naruto immediately understood why the boy felt so sad. He had that look in his eyes. He had lost someone very dear to him. The same look he himself had had when he had lost someone close to him during his time as a bounty hunter. It had taken him a few weeks before he snapped out of his funk, believing that moping around wouldn't be what they wanted. But Gigi, they're all going to die, he cried out, as if he was stating a fact. Naruto suddenly understood the boy's position a whole lot better, so instead of being angry, he just felt a deep sense of empathy and sadness for such a young child hurting. Of course, Sasuke didn't take it too well. You don't know that, brat. His voice had a little bit of scorn added into it along with his usual rudeness. Naruto's head snapped to glare at him. Sasuke. He snapped. That was not how someone talks to a child, particularly a child who has eyes like that. Sasuke returned the glare, but he turned his eyes away after a few seconds. He didn't speak after that. Dinner went quietly after that, though Naruto got a bit embarrassed when Tsunami thanked him again for his help in cleaning the dishes. They set up the beds in separate rooms. Naruto and Sasuke would take the room with Kakashi while Sakura would share the room with Tsunami. As soon as he went into the bathroom, he immediately contacted his clones. Dispel in groups at an interval of 5 minutes. We all know I can live without the headache. As the shadow clones dispelled, the memories came to his mind. He sorted through them and sighed. The Doden Jutsu was mastered. He could now cast it with just a thought. He often wondered why most Doden users never trained their earth manipulation in such a way that they could control the terrain they were on with just their chakra and thoughts. Heck, the Iwa missing nin he had encountered as Arashi would just form hand signs and slam their hands to cast the jutsu. He shook his head. As far as people knew, only Uchiha were able to copy jutsu with their Sharingan. Kakashi being the exception, but then again, he too had the Sharingan. He probably was the only one without a dojutsu who could copy jutsu, though it wasn't immediate. The futon jutsu was a bit complicated. He had to first gather air in his lungs, which was the easy part. The harder part was the shape manipulation. It was not easy to compress all of the air into an explosive ball of high density. Initially losing a lot of clones to it due to the ball of wind exploding inside them, he had gone through Tobirama's memories and found the solution. Gather the air inside in a way that it is spinning and compressed. That way its explosive effect and power can be controlled. Build up a lot of pressure simultaneously when creating the airball by creating a vacuum. Use that pressure to give explosive speed to the ball. Reviewing what Tobirama had said, though in a way it was his own point of view, Naruto finally succeeded in perfecting the jutsu. He now needed to master it, bringing it down to one-hand seal at most. The Suiden jutsu was not as hard as the futon jutsu, just tricky. He already knew how to expel water from his mouth. Making the jet of water highly pressurized so it could cut through rocks or trees was no piece of cake. Having reduced the opening of his mouth, his clones noticed that the pressure of the water released would be considerably high if the speed were to be kept the same, the high pressure making the water sharp enough to cut rocks. Well, I can master them tomorrow, now that Kakashi-sensei is awake. He exited the bathroom to find Sasuke waiting impatiently. Took you long enough, he said rudely, walking past him. Naruto looked confused at his back and back at Kakashi, who was in the room. What's up with him? Kakashi just shrugged and lay down. He looked at Naruto, who had a serious look in his face as he signed with his hand. We need to talk tomorrow morning. It's important. Kakashi frowned but nodded. Naruto nodded back and laid down on his bed, closing his eyes and working out what to do tomorrow. He found himself laying beside Kurama in their mindscape, and it looked like he wanted to talk. "You had quite the fight," he remarked, sarcasm in his voice and looking faintly amused. Naruto shot him a blank look. "Just how long do you sleep in a single stretch anyway?" Kurama gave a graceful shrug as he settled his head on his hands, eyes gazing peacefully at the moon. "Depends." On another note, the fights were disappointing. Naruto nodded. "Yeah, well, the demon brothers weren't much in Zabuza. While you would be a good fight, I really didn't want to reveal too much. You know how the Uchiha gets when he's shown up." Kurama gave a disgusted shake of the head. "That's the problem with most Uchiha. They believe they are on top and hate it when they find out someone's stronger than them. Hell, the only Uchiha I've come close to respecting is that Kagami brat from the Senju's memories." Naruto gave a grunt of affirmation. Kagami Uchiha was one of the shinobi that trained under Tobirama. He didn't have the typical Uchiha arrogance and was very skilled in fire style. He had helped Tobirama with creating some fire jutsu that Naruto had learned and had yet to learn and master. After a minute, Kurama spoke up. "How far are you with the subelements?" Naruto sighed. "Aside from wood, I wouldn't call any of them mastered. Ice is close. I've mastered the release to a point where I don't feel the strain on my chakra coils. Same with lava and magnet release. But it isn't battle ready, since my control isn't strong enough yet." "Why do you ask?" Kurama hummed. "I planned on starting to work on a new subelement using fire and wind, but since you still ought to get your lava and magnet under control, I think we can leave it until we reach back to Konoha. However, how would you like to learn one of my own fire techniques?" he asked with a grin. Naruto looked at him wide-eyed. "You're gonna teach me your techniques?" Kurama huffed. "One of them for now. The rest I will teach you at a later date. You still have to master those two jutsu, and don't think I didn't notice you copying the vortex jutsu Kakashi brat used. You'll be learning that alongside the fire technique. Now get to sleep. You have a long day tomorrow." Naruto nodded. "Thanks, Kurama." With that, he finally entered REM sleep. Naruto's eyes opened at exactly 5 in the morning. Realizing he had work to do, he quietly lifted himself off the bed. After his morning rituals, he quietly walked out of the house and flashed to his training area. Making clones to continue their training, he flashed back to the front of the house and sat down on the front steps. As he waited for his sensei to arrive, Naruto pondered on what he must do. He would have to talk to Kakashi about whether or not to get back up. Then the rest of the team desperately needed training. He'd also need to show Kakashi the map of Gado's headquarters, and explain his infiltration. Whether or not to get rid of the tyrant was the senior Jonin's call. He took out the map and was going through it when he heard the door open and someone make their way behind him. Noiseless steps, hoping to catch him off guard. "Good morning, sensei. Glad to see you're awake." If Kakashi was surprised, he didn't show it. Instead he replied with an eye smile. "Morning, Naruto. I wasn't awake till I heard you move out." Naruto nodded, after which he handed the map to Kakashi, who took it with a questioning look. The blonde Uzumaki gave a smirk and said, "That's the map of one of Gado's bases." Kakashi's eye widened. He looked from the map, to Naruto, to the map again. He couldn't believe one of his genin had already managed to infiltrate one of Gado's bases, and make a map of it too. Just how strong and skilled was he? Also, it was very dangerous. A genin should not have been doing all this. This required an infiltration specialist. Naruto was full of surprises. "How? And did you say, one of Gado's bases?" Naruto turned serious and nodded. "Yeah, he has 3 bases. There's one on the outskirts of the village, one on the far end of the forest," he pointed towards the growth of trees opposite the house, "and one near the sea. According to my sources, the map now in our hands is of the one in the outskirts. My clones are making a map of the other bases as we speak." That was not entirely true. The maps to the bases were already made, but he had already told Kakashi enough. "Clones? Naruto, while I commend you for making this map, infiltrating an enemy base is dangerous. Who knows what lies there?" "I know, sensei. And I'm sorry, but Hokage-sama had asked me to gather information and send to him as soon as I can. And don't worry. I've studied the thugs whose place I take after knocking them out. He had only killed those thugs who had taken their harassment of the local women and children to extreme levels. Most of them he just knocked out. Kakashi sighed. Very well, Naruto. But we'll be talking about this later, he said sternly to the blonde who nodded. Seemingly satisfied, the Jonin looked at the map. The map gives a general layout of the base. You notice the moving dots? The blue dots show my clones disguised as thugs and the red stationary dots show our enemies. As of now, my clones have subdued a third of the thugs and will be taking over the base by tonight or tomorrow morning as long as Gato doesn't come by. Naruto explained. Kakashi nodded. Very well. We'll hold off on taking over the other bases until we get back up. As much as I hate to admit it, we will need it. Don't let Sasuke hear you say that. He'll just have to deal with it. Kakashi shrugged, though deep down he felt a sense of dread on telling his team about the need for backup. He continued, after all, our mission is to protect Tazuna as he completes the bridge. With a nod, Naruto took out his pad. Seeing this, Kakashi took out his own. Opening it, he penned his note to the Hokage, informing him about how the client had lied about the difficulty of the mission, and his encounter with the Demon Brothers and the Demon of the Mist, Zabuza Momochi, apologizing for taking the decision to continue and requesting backup for the mission. He winced at the thought of the chewing out he would receive from the aged Hokage, but he guessed it would be a lot less than what it would have been had he not requested backup. Naruto's note, for the most part, involved the same, along with additional information from what he had seen of the country. He also sent the map and the coordinates to the first base, should the backup go directly there for the takeover. Finishing the message, he closed the pad with a sigh of relief. Kakashi stood up after closing his pad. Come on, we'd better go eat breakfast. Naruto followed him after a nod. They arrived inside to find Sasuke and Sakura already at the table, surprise in their eyes as they saw Naruto and Kakashi entering together. Sasuke narrowed his eyes in suspicion, but thankfully kept silent. Tsunami was mildly surprised. I was just coming to see if you two were outside, Kakashi-san, Naruto-kun. Kakashi smiled. We were just enjoying the morning air outside, Tsunami-san. It's quite peaceful. Tsunami smiled and gestured to the table. Please sit, breakfast is ready. Hiruzen sat in his office, reading the reports sent by Kakashi and Naruto with a frown on his face. By the looks of it, Wave Country was in bad shape. The business tycoon Gato had ed the place dry, and he had hired Zabuza Momochi, the demon of the hidden mist of all people, to take out their client. He shook his head at Kakashi's decision to continue the mission. While they technically had 2 Jonin in their team, with Naruto being a Jonin in all but title, Zabuza had earned his spot in the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. He was worried about the Uchiha's attitude though. The eagerness to fight, while sometimes a good thing, would not always end up beneficial. Sasuke wanted to continue the mission regardless of the danger or the lives of his comrades or client, just so he could test his abilities. Not the best attitude to have. He sighed. Whether in relief or not he didn't know, but thankfully Naruto had managed to send the maps of Gato's bases through the pad. Not for the first time, he was elated in his decision to nurture Naruto's talents in Fuinjutsu. The boy had even managed to take over one of the bases as well. While dangerous for a genin, the aged Hokage knew that Naruto was basically a Jonin in all but title. Taking out one of the bases was a boon for them. Now he'd have to hold on till backup arrived. And speaking of backup, Cat, he called. The purple-haired Anbu appeared with her head bowed. Orders, Hokage-sama? Have Anko Mitarashi and Hana Inuzuka report to my office at noon for an A-ranked mission. Hi Hokage-sama, she replied and vanished. Hiruzen stretched out. Now then, he said as he smirked, let's have our daily spar, shall we? His smirk widened at the groans he heard from the Anbu guarding him. After breakfast, Kakashi took his team outside, into the forest to train. All right, training will begin now. You will learn chakra control exercises so you don't waste chakra in excess while performing jutsu. This exercise is one of the basics, so you'll have to master it, no matter what. He observed their reactions closely. Sasuke had a predictably disappointed look in his face. He was hoping Kakashi would teach them powerful jutsu, but he conceded the fact that the basics were important to master. There was, undeniably, a small amount of curiosity on his face. Sakura was also curious, but she was more confused than disappointed. She didn't exactly know what Kakashi-sensei was planning to teach here, so she waited until he explained. Naruto. Well, he looked supremely bored of Kakashi. The one-eyed Jonin found his right eye twitching at the distinctly unimpressed look Naruto was giving him. Sasuke was looking faintly amused at the look Naruto was giving Kakashi. You're going to teach us tree walking, aren't you? The deadpan in his voice was unmistakable. Kakashi's sweat dropped. This could be trouble. Naruto already knows how to walk on vertical surfaces. I could get him started on water walking, but then Sakura and Sasuke would get the impression that I'm favoring Naruto. He thought as he tried to figure a way out. He was saved, however, when Naruto signaled him, I'm a clone and I know tree walking, but I'll play along. Make a clone later and come find me at your 2 o'clock. We'll have that talk you wanted.
Kakashi internally sighed in relief, and decided to explain the exercise. Like Naruto said, we're going to learn how to climb trees. What you need to do, he said while walking up to a tree, is to direct your chakra to the soles of your feet. He put a foot onto the bark, and stick to the surface. He was now walking perpendicular to the ground until he turned onto a branch and looked up, or down, at them.
Sakura looked up at him with awe in her eyes, while Sasuke looked at him with narrowed eyes. Probably thinking how this would make him stronger, both Naruto and Kakashi mused. Kakashi threw 3 kunai in front of his genin. Get to it, then. He slowly walked down the tree as the 3 of them picked up a kunai and walked to a tree. Kakashi hid behind a tree, made a clone and had it watch them while he walked off. Hey, this is easy. Sakura called out from her spot on a branch. Did you see that, Sasuke-kun? She looked down at him with adoring eyes and a smile, which vanished when she saw his expression. Oh no. Now Sasuke-kun will be mad at me for showing him up. Huh. At least better than Naruto. Wait, where is he? Sakura looked around, and saw Naruto walking up the tree nonchalantly without a care in the world. She continued to watch, slack-jawed as Naruto pretty much walked up and down the tree without even falling once. She remembered reading that if a person had huge amount of chakra, their control over it would be terrible. She had actually expected Naruto to struggle, but here he was, walking as if he had perfect control of his chakra. Sasuke watched Naruto walking up the tree with a seething expression. How can he be so much better than me? When and where did he learn all this? Sasuke looked over at the tree he was in front of and ran up the tree. After 10 steps, the bark exploded and he was sent flying, though he managed to right himself. Shaking his head, he glared at the other 2, one watching him with concern and the other with an impassive expression. He glared back at the tree. I won't let you beat me, Naruto. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Kakashi walked through the forest with his head buried in his book, however, his thoughts were elsewhere. He was still wrapping his head around the fact that Naruto, a genin, had pretty much infiltrated Gato's bases and was slowly taking over them. Granted, he was using clones, but no genin, no matter how good or how powerful, should have the brains or experience to pull off such subterfuge. Hell, he had started this kind of infiltration halfway during his days as a chunin. He was desperate to get to the bottom of the mystery that was Naruto Uzumaki, the son of his sensei. If things work out, maybe he can help in training the others. But it would seem that Sasuke needs to be broken in more and Sakura has to be broken out of her fangirl phase. I'll see if I can bring it up with him. Kakashi thought as he finally reached the edge of a clearing. He was about to step into it when he bumped right into an invisible wall. What on earth? The Cyclops Jonin blinked as the air shimmered around him to reveal that the clearing was in fact, in use. His eye then widened at what he saw. Dozens of Naruto clones, divided in groups working on various things, from jutsu to sword katas to chakra control. Yet the Naruto in the middle of the clearing was what got Kakashi's attention. The blonde genin was topless, holding himself up over a kunai with just his finger, doing one-armed push-ups. He was blindfolded, and sticking to his body were a few leaves and some decently sized stones, which Kakashi was sure were held in place by chakra. On his feet were 2 medium-sized boulders. He was currently blindfolded, with his hite-8 over his eyes, while several clones stood around him in a circle. Without warning, the clones took a kunai and started tossing them at the real Naruto. Kakashi was about to yell out a warning when he saw Naruto deflect the kunai, while continuing to do push-ups. The ones that came from behind were blocked by him moving his feet using the boulders as shields. Kakashi gaped at the sight. Not even Guy has this sort of training. On second thought, maybe he would, but how could Naruto know about it? He thought. At least Naruto didn't have the green spandex jumpsuit. He shivered at the thought of a Naruto wearing green spandex and running around yelling about the power of youth. A moment later, Naruto threw off the rocks and hopped off the kunai. He pulled up the Hite-8 and walked towards his waiting sensei as the clones dispelled. "Enjoy the show?" Naruto asked with a grin. Kakashi shook his head and replied, "Well, it certainly beats any exercise I did as a genin. I don't think even Guy does this kind of exercise." "You were 6 when you were a genin. Pretty sure you'd be bedridden if you did it." "Hell, even I would be, and I have a passenger to heal me." Naruto deadpanned, ignoring Kurama's rant of how he would leave him to rot out of spite if he had ever done that kind of exercise at that age. The one-eyed Jonin blinked. Then he shrugged, "True. Anyway, I believe we have a lot to talk about." "True." Naruto conceded. "You might want to sit down. There's actually a lot to tell you, as long as you keep it to yourself and only yourself." Kakashi's eye narrowed. "You know, if Hokage-sama asks me, I'll have to tell him, right?" Naruto smiled. "The old man already knows. How else do you think he knew how to get into my house?" Kakashi relaxed and then his eyes widened. How? Naruto smirked. "Seal master and ninja." He pointed to himself. Speaking of which, he tapped his foot on the ground and Kakashi saw a seal array sprout from the place his student put his foot. Then it faded and Naruto said, "Now we can talk." Anko snorted to herself as she looked up at the building, which was supposed to be one of the bases of the business magnate Gato, who was basically a tyrant in disguise. According to the information the Hokage had given them, they were supposed to go as backup for Team 7, Kakashi's team, and help them secure the bases while Zabuza was still recovering. The Hokage had warned them that there would be a battle, but they could try their best not to let it reach to that point. When they arrived, however, they discovered that the base they had reached had pretty much been taken over, and to the surprise of everyone in the backup team, bar the snake Tokubetsu Jonin, it was done by a genin. "I take it you approve?" were the words that greeted the Tokubetsu Jonin when she saw her former student, surrogate little brother walk towards her. She snorted, "Approve? Hell kid, if you were older I'd be." "I really don't think you want to finish that sentence, Anko. I'd like my genin not traumatized. Thank you very much." The voice of Kakashi Hitaki interrupted them. Anko turned around and saw the Cyclops Jonin walking towards her next to her little brother, who was looking at her with a raised eyebrow and a small blush. Anko smirked. No matter how good he had gotten, he would never stand a chance against her teasing. She noticed out of the corner of her eye the other Naruto disappear in a poof of smoke. Why not Kakashi? After all, the Gaki has to gain some sort of resistance when he finally asks out that Hyuga girl. Kakashi turned to his student, who was blushing. "Oh. Something you wish to tell me, Naruto?" Naruto stammered. We're 12. We're just friends now, though I really wouldn't mind getting with Hinata-chan. She is beautiful," he thought with a small smile. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Back in Konoha, an indigo-haired lavender-eyed Hyuga girl sneezed as she was training with her sister. "Someone must be thinking about me. I hope it's Naruto-kun," she thought with a smile. "Ne-sama. Don't get distracted," Hanabi yelled, snapping her out of her thoughts. "Oh, don't worry, Imouto. I'm very well in this fight, though now you're within range of my divination," Hinata stated. Hanabi's eyes widened. "Oh no, Hake Juroku Sho," Hinata exclaimed and charged. 2 palms. 4 palms. 8 palms. 16 palms. Hinata's last strike had Hanabi blasted backwards. She crashed into the wall with a heavy thud. "Yeah. I'm the princess of Jayuken and you better deal with it," Hinata exclaimed, getting a groan from her sister. Hiyashi, who had been watching from the sidelines, sweat dropped at that declaration. Though he couldn't help but feel pride for her daughter. It seems his late friend's son had come through and brought Hinata out of her shell, and she was stronger for it. Though that last declaration sounded like something Kushina would say, he thought with a shudder. He still remembered the kind yet loud-mouthed and fiery redhead who had been his late wife's best friend and his best friend's wife. He shook his head of the thoughts as he watched his daughter rush to her sister and start healing her with her medicinal creams. She would make a good medical ninja too, he thought with a small smile. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Naruto snapped out of his thoughts and saw Anko smirking. Clearing his throat, he was about to speak when Kakashi spoke up, "So what's the plan?" Anko looked to him and said, "As of now, we'll ransack this base and see if we can find anything. Then we'll hit the other bases. Speaking of, where are the rest of your team?" "Right here." Two figures dropped to the ground. "Kakashi-senpai. Good to see you. Though I wish you'd put down that book for once," Yugo said exasperatedly. Kakashi gave her an eye smile. "Well, it is hard to put down good literature, Yugo-chan." Naruto shook his head. "I think we should focus here." Anko snorted. "Not every day you see a genin being the voice of reason, yet here we are. Anyway, what's the plan, Taiko?" she asked Yugo. "The base is secure. Naruto-kun's clones have got it covered. Tomorrow we'll target the other base by the sea. For now, I think we should head to the main house and rest." "Right. And you owe me a spar in the evening, brat." "Sure, Anko-ne. Meet Prime in the training clearing at 5 o'clock. Naruto replied before saluting the others and disappearing in a puff of smoke. Anko blinked and shook her head. "That was a clone too? Where's the real one then?" "Guarding Tazuna, our client," Kakashi replied, "though one of his clones is monitoring Sasuke and Sakura with my real self as they're working on tree walking." Yugo shook her head, muttering something about irresponsible senseis as Kakashi's clone led them back to the house. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Kakashi leaned against a tree as he kept reading his book, though he kept an eye on his students as they kept going with the exercise. The real Naruto was guarding Tazuna at the bridge today, while the clones went to receive the backup, consisting of Anko, Hana and Yugo. A perfect combination, in his mind. He was still reeling from the revelations he had been privy to yesterday. He had seen and heard many things that most people would consider ridiculous. He had had an illustrious career in his Anbu days as a captain, and would probably have been commander in another few years had he remained. He had been nearing S-rank status just before he had quit the Corps. However, none of that prepared him for yesterday's bombshells. His student knew about his heritage, and most of all, he had mastered the jutsu that made his sensei, the Yondaime, the most feared shinobi in the elemental nations. He had trained since he was a child with the encouragement of the Hokage. He didn't know how to feel about that. Not to mention Naruto had trained in chakra control to the point where he could use medical ninjutsu. No wonder he could use genjutsu so easily. The amount of hard work and dedication Naruto must have put in seemed unfathomable to the Jonin. He had nearly choked on his spit when Naruto had demonstrated the Rasengan. That was something unexpected. However, Naruto wasn't known as the most unpredictable ninja for nothing. It was the conversation after that actually had Kakashi reeling though. Flashback. Kakashi stared as Naruto showed him the fully formed Rasengan. He couldn't believe that it took only 20 days for the genin to complete the jutsu. He had taken a month and a half to complete it and Jiraiya-sama had taken 3. However, what surprised him was that Naruto had kept his hand outstretched and aimed it at a tree. Next thing he knew, the Rasengan moved a bit forward and started shrinking. Naruto then closed his hand and left only the middle and index finger opened with the thumb pointed straight, as if he was pointing at the tree. The shrunken Rasengan stayed at the end of the fingers. Rasengan. Spiraling bullet. The shrunken Rasengan shot forward at high speed towards the tree. Kakashi had barely lifted his eye patch to track the jutsu with his Sharingan, when the jutsu pierced the tree and another 3 behind it. Kakashi stared at the tree, then at Naruto and then back to the tree. "So, any chance of you teaching me that?" Naruto raised an eyebrow. "You have 1,000 jutsu. And you need this as well." "Well, I could teach you a couple," Kakashi said with a shrug and an eye smile. He then opened his eye to see Naruto give him a deadpan look. It was the same look that Minato-sensei gave him, Obito and Rin when they, especially Obito, did or said something stupid. Like father, like son, thought Kakashi. "Sensei, while that is appreciated, should Sasuke come to know about you teaching jutsu, he's going to behave worse than a toddler who got denied his milk." Naruto replied,
You can teach all of us the jutsu, though you might want to separate us while doing that. Why? Kakashi asked with a raised eyebrow, which then narrowed when Naruto took out a piece of paper that looked like chakra paper, only to again shoot up to his hairline when he saw the paper split in three. Though he figured the surprise this stopped there, his mask-covered jaw had dropped when he saw one strip of paper soak heavily, another crumble to dust and the last crinkled almost into a ball and burst into flames. All five. Yep, Naruto said with a smirk. Kakashi did the only thing he could do at that point. He fainted. He regained consciousness quickly, too quickly in his opinion, when he realized he was wet. He opened his eye to see Naruto standing over him looking amused. That was the same reaction Gigi and Anko Nichan had when they found out. Kakashi shook his head as he sat up. No wonder the Hokage had called Naruto the most unpredictable ninja. And he was friendly with Anko too. Now that was a bit concerning. Not that he had anything against the woman, she was a great person and fun to be around. It was just the love for torture and the overly suggestive jokes and behavior, though it would be akin to the pot calling the kettle black considering he read great literature in public. I can see why you want to separate yourself. Sasuke would have a fit. He would, but he can't do anything about it. Besides, he has somewhat the same affinities as you. Fire and lightning with a touch of earth that needs to be brought out later. Sakura on the other hand has a small affinity to fire and a moderate affinity to water and earth. Kakashi gaped, and then shook his head. At this point I don't even want to ask but I have to. You can sense affinities as well. Naruto smirked. Sensor. He then turned serious. Kakashi-sensei, while your teachings of teamwork being the most important thing for a shinobi is apt, we need to also grow stronger individually. I may be good, but there is still a lot you can teach us. If you don't mind, you and I can help Sakura and Sasuke in different ways. Kakashi blinked. How so? Naruto sighed. As much as I hate to admit it, you are the only one who can teach Sasuke the ways of the Sharingan and the Uchiha's Interceptor Fist. So I won't blame you if you spend more time with Sasuke than either me or Sakura. It will also get the council off our backs, so the old man won't be bothered much as well. As for Sakura, the only thing she has going for her right now is her intelligence and high level of chakra control. Owing to her small reserves, which I plan on making her increase, her control should be even better than mine. The only reason it isn't is because I practice mine every day. Anyway, she is more attuned to genjutsu and medical ninjutsu. But you can teach her a bit of advanced taijutsu as well. I can nudge her towards focusing on medical ninjutsu. That way, we can have a team medic as well. Something not many genin teams or even chunin have. Kakashi was lost in thought. Normally he would have dismissed what people said about training his team, especially the words of a genin. But this was no ordinary genin. This was his sensei's son, who was pretty much as smart as his sensei if not more. He was powerful, but at the same time, humble. Plus he put forward a lot of good points. He was yet to see the signs of the other two genin opening their eyes to the reality of the shinobi world, but for now, he could wait. End flashback. Kakashi sighed as he looked up from his book at his students. He and Naruto had then talked about other things. But right now, he realized that while getting his students in shape, he had to focus on his own training too. Naruto's comment about Obito, Rin, and Minato-sensei not wanting him to continue wallowing in grief and to live for them struck a chord within him. He would have to start training soon. But first, great literature awaited, he mused as he let out a perverted giggle while going back to his book. Zabuza was resting on a cot with a blanket over him. He did not like the fact that he had lost to Kakashi. That damn Sharingan, he hated its abilities, copying off the hard work and dedication he put into learning his jutsu in a simple blink. His fists clenched in anger. He could not wait to tear out that eyeball and stomp on it. His thoughts then diverted to yesterday's conversation. Flashback. A short man dressed in a business suit and two samurai who were his bodyguards entered the room and went over to where Zabuza was resting. So the terrifying demon of the mist is crippled after facing a few kids and a ninja. I don't think I'm getting my money's worth when it comes to paying you, Zabuza. Maybe I should get someone who would be able to get some Iwa shinobi to do your work. Or perhaps I should just kill you and save me the pain of losing any more money. The short man sneered at the bed-resting Nin. The short man, known as Gato, walked over to Zabuza and reached out his hand to strangle him when a figure appeared out of nowhere and caught his wrist, before twisting it ruthlessly. "I will not let you harm Zabuza-sama," came the hard voice of Haku, who further twisted Gato's arm to the point of breaking it. Gato shrieked in pain and fell to his knees. "Hands off our boss," one of the samurai said and stepped forward when Haku grabbed a kunai and threw it at them. The samurai dodged and it got buried in the wall behind them. Seeing them distracted, he pulled two senbon and threw it precisely at a point in both of their arms that they were rendered immobile. The temperature in the room dropped a few degrees as Haku whispered with deadly intent, "I missed your vital points on purpose. So don't test me." Gato snarled as he got up to his feet after Haku released him, "Insolent brat. You and Zabuza had better finish the job I gave you, or there will be consequences." With that, he exited the house, followed by his bodyguards whose arms were still immobile. "You know, you didn't have to do that for me. I could have taken care of it myself if it came to that," Zabuza commented as he fingered the kunai in his hands under the bedsheet. "I was aware of that, Zabuza-sama. But as your tool, I will always protect my master in any circumstance," Haku said with a smile. End flashback. Zabuza sighed thinking of that encounter. "In any case, I will be back to full strength in 3 more days. And when I am," his voice turned murderous, "Kakashi will die." He did not notice the small ant near the corner of his bed disappear in a puff of smoke. Naruto opened his eyes and sighed. He had been assigned to guard Tazuna today, while the others continued their chakra control exercise. Most of the time it was boring, until one of Tazuna's workers quit, claiming he didn't feel safe while Gato was around. He nearly scoffed at that but held himself. It was, after all, only a matter of time until Gato met his end. With one base taken over and the other 2 almost done, it was only a matter of time before the inevitable clash occurred. Seeing Tazuna hurt but trying to put up a brave front, Naruto had supplied help with a few clones, around 20, and they had been a great source of help for Tazuna and his men. Reading those books on building stuff came in handy after all, he mused. He frowned as he received the memories of some of the clones. Zabuza would regain strength in 3 days, their reinforcements were likely on their way to the house led by Kakashi's clone, while Sasuke and Sakura were making good progress in their chakra control. They were slowly warming up to him, but Naruto wasn't convinced that they were ready for that talk yet. He had actually agreed with Tsunade when Gigi told him about Tsunade's idea of a medic program, and was disappointed when Gigi had shot down that idea. He had argued for it as well, forcing the aged Hokage to concede to starting one after the Chunin exams. If each team had 1 medic at least, the mission success rate would be high. Team 7 already had a medic in him, but he believed Sakura could be the main medic while he was the backup. The team's combined strength should Sakura become the medic would be pretty high, as far as he was concerned. Hinata was already the de facto medic of Team 8, with her healing creams and basic medical jutsu Naruto had taught her in secret. It seemed Team 10 was the only team without a medic. Hopefully that would be resolved soon. He was snapped out of his thoughts when he heard Tazuna's voice, "Hey, kid. We're done for the day. Let's go." Nodding, Naruto got up and joined the old builder. They were walking back while chatting when Naruto's eyes glazed over and then widened in shock. "Shit." Tazuna was startled by the kid's outburst. "What's wrong?" "I have news. We need to get back to Sensei quickly," Naruto said. With that, he grabbed Tazuna's arm. "Brace yourself. This can make you a bit dizzy," he said before performing a shunshin. They appeared in front of the house, with Tazuna nearly throwing up. "Never do that again," the old man wheezed. "That was super disorienting." "Sorry," Naruto replied sheepishly before he headed to the front door. Opening it, he stepped into the dining room to see Kakashi, Anko, Yugao, Hana and his team seated around the table. Sakura and Sasuke looked tired, as if they would fall on top of their food, but content. "Yo Gaki, we were wondering if you ended up lost on your way back," Anko quipped with a grin, which dimmed when she saw the look on Naruto's face. "What's wrong, Naruto?" Naruto took a deep breath. He tapped his foot, which caused a seal array to spread out and glow before it vanished. Before anyone could comment, he started. It seems Gato never planned on paying Zabuza. I think he plans to double-cross him. When? I'm not sure, but I'm thinking it would be when we were all weakened after we clashed later, or when Tazuna was dead. Possibly the latter. And he has 3 other ninjas with him. Ninjas with Iwa headbands. Oh boy, Kakashi and Anko muttered. Sasuke scoffed. Why would Iwa ninjas be a problem? Because of who is on the team, Kakashi answered. I was the Yondaime Hokage's student, and was part of the 3rd great shinobi Wat against Iwa. It is when I earned my nickname, Kakashi of the Sharingan, he said, moving a hand to rest on his covered eye. Any idea who they are, Naruto? Yugao asked. Naruto, who had been looking through what looked like a small black book, much to the surprise of the senior shinobi, looked up. Yeah, I think I got who we're up against. Handing the book to Kakashi, he said, Tamaharu Haskaya, 39 years old, Jonin. Specializes in wide area earth jutsu. War veteran. Bounty 15 million ryo, known to be to anybody from Konoha. He paused as Kakashi turned the page. Ichikawa Sansetsu, 31 years old, Jonin. Specializes in earth-enhanced taijutsu. Said to have body armor as strong as granite. Known to have a grudge against Konoha for loss of his parents during the war. The next is Makiko Kamizuru, 24 years old, Jonin. She specializes in insect-based combat similar to the Aburame. Kakashi cut him off. Also, she's sworn to kill me for copying her jutsu during the war and passing it on to the Aburame. He finished. A long silence followed that sentence. Finally, Anko was the one who broke it. Clapping her hands, she said, well then. Shall we begin to plan? Naruto stood up. I'll start beefing up the security. Think I'll get some training in as well. Hana blinked. Naruto, what more security do we need? Yeah, brat, Anko snorted. The traps you set are enough to neutralize Chunin. Yeah, but not enough to neutralize Jonin. Give me an hour or 2 and I'll set it up. With that, Naruto walked out of the house. Sasuke turned to Kakashi and asked, Kakashi, exactly how good is Naruto at Fuinjutsu? Kakashi's eyes smiled, good enough. Though you'll just have to wait and see or ask him yourself, Sasuke. Sasuke scoffed, whatever. When are we attacking Zabuza and the Iwa ninjas? Kakashi looked at him seriously. Leave the ninjas to me and the backup, Sasuke. As much as I hate to admit it, you're not ready yet. Sasuke bristled. How dare he speak down to an Uchiha? Well, I need to get stronger, so I have to test myself against them. How else can I go after him? Quiet, Genin, Yugao ordered. Do not speak to your superior like that. Uchiha or not, you're still a Genin and you would do well to remember that. The council may sing your praises, but this is the real world. You're good, kid, but you're not at the level where you can talk back to your superiors. Kakashi's mouth twitched. Though Sasuke was his student and he tried to instill in him the need to be cautious, it was usually going over the boy's head. Having someone else be blunt towards him would hopefully cause him to pause a bit.
Sasuke glared at her, but thankfully remained silent.
None of them noticed 2 of their number go outside. Inari watched as the blonde boy, Naruto they called him, made clones of himself, clones that could walk, talk, and think for themselves. He then watched the clones paint those weird symbols around their house, when after making a hand sign, glowed for a while and then vanished. He then went and drew the same seals on the trees nearby. All this time, Inari felt conflicting emotions within himself. He was angry, but confused. He had seen his father, his role model, slaughtered mercilessly by Gato. The story had been narrated by his Gigi and mother to those ninjas when that pink-haired girl had pointed to the picture that had his father's head cut off. Kaiza had been the hope of his country when Gato had started invading and increasing taxes against the population. Seeing him murdered had quelled any form of rebellion and Inari had lost all hope. Seeing this band of ninjas, some of them not many years older than him, going about without a care had pissed him off. He was confused when Naruto had placed all those symbols around his house. He finally couldn't hold on his curiosity. Why does he try so hard? He exclaimed to himself.
I think I can answer that, said a female voice.
Inari spun around to see that pretty purple-haired woman with the trench coat and dark orange skirt leaning against the wall and looking at him with a smirk. Yo, pint size, you really should be aware of your surroundings. An enemy would have killed you by now, she told him. Inari scowled at her. What do you want? You wanted to know why he tries hard, didn't you? Inari scoffed. Whatever. You people won't win against Gato. He's too powerful to be stopped. Already giving up. No wonder Gato had an easy time taking over. You wouldn't know what it's like to live a hard life. You walk around without a care in the world. I'd hate to be like you people. Inari shouted as he glared heatedly, tears coming out his eyes. He then shut up as he felt the temperature drop, and then a spike of pressure which caused him to freeze. Feeling a hand on his shoulder, he looked up and saw the woman look at him with anger in her eyes. Look at you, she whispered, bitching and about life, thinking you have it hard. She was just whispering, but the tension was enough to bring those inside out of the house, wondering what was going on. Kakashi heard the boy's rant and Anko's retort. While he felt Anko's anger was justified, Tazuna and Tsunami were wide-eyed. Anko straightened up, tightening her grip on the boy's shoulder, making him wince and cry. Her mind went back to the children she had seen on the way back, the ones who were no doubt orphans. You sit here, with a loving family, with a mother that cooks for you, worries for you, and loves you. A grandfather that is building a bridge so this country can be free of Gato's reign. Anko looked upon him with disgust. Some hard life you have. Sakura had enough of Anko berating Inari. She felt that the special Jonin was being too harsh on the boy. Enough. That's too far. She was silenced immediately when a kunai was embedded just in front of the space between her feet. She looked up to see Anko give her a fierce glare, enforced with killing intent. Shut up. Sakura was terrified of both the killing intent and the smoldering rage in Anko's voice. She fell on her backside like a sack of potatoes, a look of terror on her face. Naruto, who had come back on feeling the tension, had remained silent at this point. But felt he had some right to intervene in this. It's all right, Anko Nichan, he said, before bringing up a piece of paper, which had a seal on it. Everyone put your palm on this quickly. They did so, and felt something wash over them. It was cold and hot at the same time. We're safe. No one but us can enter through those trees now. The house is pretty much invisible to the rest of the world for now. Naruto explained once everyone had put their palm on the seal. Sakura, Sasuke and Hana gaped in shock. Anko laughed. Yugao and Kakashi looked impressed. Tazuna and Tsunami relaxed considerably, as if a huge weight had left their shoulders. Inari, however, ended up getting a new momentum to his tirade. So what? You're still going to lose to Gat. The temperature dropped again, as everyone focused on Naruto, who had a cold look on his face. That look terrified everyone. Even Kakashi, Anko, Yugao and Sasuke took a step back. Tsunami was wide-eyed, trying to wonder how a sweet boy like Naruto could carry such rage within him. I'm willing to bet that you've never set foot outside the house. Where children younger than you have lost their parents, both of them. He raised his voice, and felt a dark satisfaction in seeing everyone flinch. I'm glad I am nothing like you. Anko Nichan and I actually decided to do something with our lives instead of becoming a crybaby, sitting in a place and whining how hard life is. News flash, there are people out there who have it far worse than you do. You are nothing but a coward who refuses to do something right. He turned and walked towards the forest, leaving a stunned crowd behind him. Where are you going, Naruto? Kakashi asked him. To burn off some of this anger. Naruto replied, not bothering to look back. Anko snapped back to her senses. Hey, wait for me, Gaki. You owe me a spar. She yelled out, chasing after her student, surrogate little brother. The rest of them wondered what caused both Naruto and Anko to have such a strong reaction to Inari's words. Inari sniffled before he too ran towards the pier, looking out into the ocean. That was a disaster, though not entirely unexpected, Kakashi thought as he ushered the rest of them inside. Once that was done, he put his book aside and followed Inari out to the back, where he was watching the ocean. Do you mind if I join you? Asked Kakashi, startling Inari. Without waiting for a reply, Kakashi sat beside the boy, both looking out at the ocean. Naruto and Anko didn't say those things out of spite. They're just a bit stubborn is all, Kakashi gently said. While what they had said was the cold, bitter truth, the weight of those words was not something an 8-year-old could handle. Naruto was different. He had been handling such weight ever since he learned to walk and talk. Naruto is just like you in the regard that he has no father. Kakashi knew that Naruto knew who his father was, but Naruto had no memories of him. In fact, Naruto has no memories of his parents at all. They were taken away from him at his birth, so he doesn't understand what parents are. He also had no friends. He explained. Inari's head lifted up to face Kakashi, confusion in his eyes. Kakashi continued, however, there wasn't a single moment when I saw either of the two cry or get sulky, that was true. Naruto and Anko had faced the difficulties of life head-on and won, becoming stronger with each challenge. They were desperate to make people acknowledge them, Kakashi said. He had seen it in their eyes, the hope that someone would recognize them for who they are was naked for the world to see. Unfortunately for them, save for a few people, the world acted ignorant. Though, in a way, it led them to each other, and it made them happier and stronger for it, Kakashi mused. He chuckled softly. They got bored of crying at the world a long time ago. Inari looked down, beginning to understand what Kakashi was trying to say. Naruto was not born strong. He chose to get strong so he could live his life in a better way. Naruto knows where true strength comes from, just like your father. In fact, Naruto might be the one who understands you the most, Kakashi said. Inari was slowly understanding that Naruto might be the only one who was most similar to Inari. Anko too. Kakashi eyes smiled. The words they said to you earlier, they've probably told themselves that over and over again. The nerve of that brat. I don't know suffering. He wouldn't last a day living my life. Anko ranted to herself as she parried one of Naruto's strikes with her sword. The spar had been vicious till now, with the area surrounding them littered with scorch marks, shuriken and kunai, and lots of mud. Naruto followed up with a roundhouse kick that Anko blocked with her hand, followed by a downward swipe of her sword that Naruto blocked with a kunai. The clang of metal sounded as they went back and forth before Anko finally saw an opening and kicked Naruto towards a tree. Instead of slamming against the tree, however, Naruto looked like he merged into the tree and vanished. The surroundings then became quiet. Anko looked around, waiting for Naruto to show up. She then felt the heat getting stronger. Looking up, she saw a giant ball of flames rushing towards her. But something felt off. Genjutsu, Anko thought before the heat got to her. She quickly put the ram sign and released the illusion, only for the flames to vanish and be replaced by feathers that were falling. Anko, already tired from the spar, felt even more drowsy. Drowsy. Anko released the second layer of Genjutsu and everything came into focus. It was too late though as she sank to her knees in exhaustion. Not bad, Gaki, was the last thought in her head as she felt a blunt force to the head, knocking her out. She came to quickly, to see Naruto using medical ninjutsu on her. Sorry for that concussion. It's healed now though. You should be right as rain in a few, Naruto told her with a smile. Anko smiled back. She was one of the few who Naruto had told about his medical training. Plus the spar had even calmed her down from the fact that Naruto hadn't told her about him knowing who his parents were. She did not know whether to be proud or smack him around when he had told her of his adventures as the bounty hunter Arashi. She had settled for a week-long trip to the Forest of Death where she trained with him more, using him as bait for her summons. Naruto had understood her anger and concern and didn't fault her for it. She even promised him another when they got back to Konoha for not telling about his parents. She was proud of his achievements though, and proud that it had been her who had helped him along. Though, it wasn't a one-way street. Naruto had actually helped her as well. Not just with his company, but he also helped her complete her mastery over Doden. While she couldn't make as many clones as Naruto, something she had pouted about for a few days until Naruto had ended up dragging her to a dango stand and even paid for it, she now had the chakra capacity to create at least 10 clones, all with decent enough chakra to help with the manipulation. With that, she was able to complete the exercises in 3 years, and had even started on Kaden. She was simply left in awe of her little brother, who had beaten the Sandame's record of mastering all 5 elements by about a decade. Something she desperately wanted to brag about, but was silenced by Naruto and the old man for fear of letting unsavory company know. He had inspired her to not only improve upon her current elements, fire and earth, but also start training for her third, which was, surprisingly, water. Naruto was helping her through the first step of water manipulation, which even her friend Yugao had also helped in, being a water elemental herself. She was snapped out of her thoughts when Naruto said, "There, all done. You should be able to get yourself back to the house. Unless you want me to help your old self walk," he asked cheekily. "Old, you're calling me, the sweetie and single Anko Mitarashi old?" Anko exclaimed before grabbing Naruto and giving him a noogie. They spent a few minutes roughhousing until Anko had Naruto in a hug. No matter how much they trained, bickered or fought, the sibling bond between them was strong. A sort of kindred spirit found within them, and it made them happy. Naruto did not even mind Anko's hugs. "Thanks, Naruto. You're a good brother. Anytime, Anko Nichan. So, you're going to train a little more?" "Yeah, have some jutsu to get down. I'll come by the house soon though, don't worry." With a nod, Anko shunshined out of the place, leaving Naruto alone. Seeing that he was alone, Naruto made the half-ram seal and summoned 100 clones. He then mentally commanded them, "All right, 25 of you shall work on reducing the hand seals on the water dragon jutsu. 50 of you shall work on the Daibikufu no jutsu. 10 of you work on any new ideas for new seals, and another 10 work on mixing the elements with the Rasengan. The other 5, let's practice our taijutsu." With a salute and a nod, the clones split off to work on their assignments, while the original took on 5 clones in another spar to practice their taijutsu. Kurama just watched on, glad that his container was strong, yet level-headed, almost like. He shook his head. Naruto may have gotten stronger, but he had a long way to go if he were to get on his level. He closed his eyes and went back to sleep. Chapter text. Haku wore a pink kimono with red cherry blossoms and wooden sandals. He was carrying a basket and slightly humming to himself. While boys of his age would cringe at his choice of clothes, Haku had no such problem. In fact, he wore them just so he could witness the absolute shock on people's faces when they figured out he was a boy and not a girl. It was amusing. No, scratch that, it was always downright hilarious. After an hour of walking, he came upon what he was searching for. Kneeling down, he began to pick herbs. His basket was almost half full when he felt something off. Getting up and turning around, he watched the scene with shock and curiosity. The field a few meters away was full of scorch marks, burned trees and dozens of kunai. Thankfully, the area he came to collect herbs was untouched. In the middle of the area, he saw the boy his master had fought 3 or 4 days ago. Naruto, his mind supplied helpfully. From what he had seen in the fight, he was very skilled. He knew how to perform elemental jutsu, which his master had told him no genin is capable of. His use of the kawarimi was also impressive as on-the-fly technique to save his sensei. This boy was dangerous. He was laying down, limbs spread away from the body. He was not even aware of the birds that had taken perch on him. Haku had an internal debate. He could either quietly collect his herbs and leave, or he could kill him and save some trouble later on. He reached out his arm towards Naruto's throat, silently deciding to kill him now and swiftly, to spare him the pain. "I would advise against that." Haku jumped back in surprise and watched as Naruto instantly opened his eyes, as if he was not asleep at all. But his slightly puffy eyelids gave it away that he had been asleep, but woke up due to feeling his presence. Naruto took a few moments to shake off the drowsiness from his eyes before turning to address the girl. "Jolting me awake hasn't been pleasant for anyone who has done that." Haku watched as he kipped up to his feet before working out all kinks in his joints, all the while, completely ignoring his presence. Naruto worked out the stiffness in his body while simultaneously going over the results of last night's training. The clones practicing the water dragon jutsu had managed to reduce the number of hand signs to 20. The futon, Suiten and Doden jutsus had been reduced to one hand seal each 2 days ago. The Daibakufu no jutsu was almost down. He wanted to get those done so he could focus on Kurama's fire technique. Well, not a bad day, he thought. He turned to face the girl, who he thought was quite pretty. However, something seemed off. He focused his senses, and could feel the wind and water chakra natures within her. However, they were mixed in such a way that it could be harnessed easily. Ice release. Wait, this is familiar, she's the hunter Nin. He realized. He kept his features neutral, and asked her, so, what are you doing here? His question snapped Haku out of his trance and he bent down to make it appear that he was picking herbs. I'm picking herbs for a friend. He's quite ill, you see. Haku sincerely hoped his voice didn't waver. Sadly for him, Naruto had noticed. To his credit, Naruto only rose an eyebrow. Then you might want to avoid that herb. I've read it's quite poisonous, he said, nodding towards the ground. Haku looked down as an embarrassed blush came across his face. He was going to pick an herb that was more suited to make poison than antidote. To cover up his embarrassment, Haku decided to introduce himself. By the way, I'm Haku. Naruto let out a small smile and extended his hand. I'm Naruto. Nice to meet you, Haku-san. Haku inwardly laughed as he imagined Naruto's face when he revealed he was a boy. For now though, he replied, nice to meet you too. Naruto gestured to her basket. Can I help you in collecting those herbs? Naruto and Haku collected herbs to fill Haku's basket. As they went about their work, Haku decided to break the silence. So I noticed your headband. You're a ninja, right? Naruto inwardly smiled at the attempt to fish information out of him. But he decided he could humor the girl. Boy, he couldn't really tell at the moment. Taking a deep breath, he replied, yes. I was out here letting off some steam last night. It was pretty late when I finally calmed down, so I decided to sleep out here. He then looked at Haku. How long have you been living in this country? Not long, I'm afraid. My friend and I travel a lot and we sort of got stuck here. Haku replied. So what does your friend do that requires so much travel? Haku hesitated for a moment before an answer came to mind. He's a craftsman of a particular art that is always in high demand. I don't practice it myself, so don't ask me to explain it to you. I hope being stuck in wave hasn't dulled his skills. Naruto looked up and saw the sun was pretty much up. It's getting late. Would you like me to walk you to our home? Haku was quick to respond. No thank you. My guardian would not take it well if I showed a stranger where we were staying. Do you mind if I ask you something? At his nod, Haku asked, as a shinobi, why do you fight? Naruto looked at him, thinking about the question. Images of his Jiji, Jiraiya, Iruka, Anko, Hinata, Shikamaru, Choji came to his mind. A fleeting image of Makoto Obaken, and his parents also flashed. Finally, the image of Tobirama sensei, arms crossed as he watched him train, and his last words came to his mind. Train hard and push yourself to learn more and more. And use the skills I have taught you and those you will learn to protect Konohagakure and her citizens. I fight to protect those who are precious to me. I may be strong now, but there is always room for improvement. The stronger I get, the better I can protect my precious people, the closer I can get to becoming Hokage. It was also a promise I made to my mentor before he passed, he finished with a sad smile. Haku knew from the moment he gazed into Naruto's eyes that Naruto fully knew what he was talking about. Nonetheless, he spoke, then I believe you will be truly strong. Because when you have someone precious to protect, only then you can gain true strength. Naruto kept his intense gaze on Haku, who returned it without flinching. After a long while, Naruto smiled and said, never have I met anyone before except my Jiji and my old mentor who shares my understanding of fighting to protect. You have the most accurate idea of where strength comes from, Haku-san. You have my respect for that. Haku smiled and stood up from where he was sitting and picked up his basket. You will become strong, he stated before walking away. Time to reveal his secret. Oh, and by the way, I'm a boy, he said, turning to flash a smile at Naruto. However, he was disappointed when Naruto just nodded. How could he be so calm? I figured, Naruto said. On the inside, he was breathing a sigh of relief. He had nearly confirmed that Haku was a girl before taking a whiff. Women and girls have a particular scent to them. Most kunoichis tend to forget about those. But not everyone has a nose like mine, he said, tapping his nose with a smirk. It was how he had managed to catch Anko Nichan sometimes when she hid her chakra from him in their spars. Haku managed to cover his surprise and disappointment with a nod. I see. Though, you do look prettier than most girls I know, Naruto admitted sheepishly, scratching the back of his head. You enjoy trying to mess with people with that, don't you? Haku let out a small laugh. No comment, he said as he walked away. As soon as he was out of sight, Naruto's smile vanished. He had managed to place seeds scattered across the ground and he had seen some get attached to Haku's sandals. Good. That would mean his Shoshinki transmission was a success. Now all he had to do was notify Kakashi-sensei so that they could get one problem off their backs. As he walked back to Tezuna's house, however, he tried to think of how to tackle the Iwa Nins. He decided to leave it to Kakashi-sensei, Anko Nichan and Yugao, after dealing with Zabuza. He was almost at the edge of the forest when he saw Sasuke coming out of the house and heading towards him. Putting a smile on his face, he said, "Good morning, Sasuke." Sasuke gave a grunt. "You missed breakfast, Naruto," he replied. Naruto blinked and shrugged. As he went back he saw Sasuke start doing stretches, no doubt going to be continuing the tree-walking exercise. Once he was out of Sasuke's sight, he made a few clones who shunshin to their clearing where they would continue training the Suiryuden, though at this point he could just call it Suiryu since the dragon didn't shoot anything from its mouth like the Earth Dragon and the Daibikufu. Another few clones would go and help out in the bridge, and a few more would brainstorm ideas for new seals and jutsu theory. Reaching the house, he saw Kakashi, Anko and Yugao at the table, still eating their breakfast. They looked up as he entered and sat at the table. "Oh, you're back, Naruto-kun," Tsunami said as she walked out of the kitchen with a smile. It then turned into a frown. "You were training all night, Naruto-kun. What if you had caught a cold?" Naruto shook his head. "I don't catch a cold, Tsunami-san." He sat down at the table. The thought of a cold amused him. He had never been ill in his life, courtesy of having Kurama sealed inside him. As he ate his breakfast, Kakashi turned to him. "So how was your training, Naruto?" Swallowing his food, Naruto nodded, "As well as can be." "I do have some information though," he said, gaining the attention of the Jonin. "What is it?" Anko asked with a frown. "Zabuza's accomplice, the Hunter Nin, came across me as I was resting in the morning after training. We got to talking. I knew he knew who I was but I haven't let him know that I knew who he was. I have a way to track him to their hideout. Why didn't you bring him here so that we could interrogate him about Zabuza's location?" Yugao asked. "Because he would have carried that information to the grave. He's very loyal to Zabuza, unlike the demon brothers," Naruto explained. Kakashi sat in thought. While knowing Zabuza's location was a plus, they still had no clue how to get the Kiri Nin off their backs. If only they had the means to. "Naruto, where does Gato keep his money? Any idea?" Naruto looked surprised, but rubbed his chin in thought. "From what I have observed, Gato split his money among the bases. The most amount of money is in his main base, in his office. The least amount of money was in the base I took over," he said. He then had a thought. "Are you thinking of paying Zabuza off?" "Yes, that is what I am thinking of," Kakashi said. Naruto leaned back. "The base I ransacked had 20 million ryo in it," he said, leading to the Jonin nearly choking on their food and Tsunami to drop a plate in surprise. 20 million, Tsunami gasped. Naruto turned and nodded. "Yeah. I'm betting most of the money will be with Gato, meaning we may have to infiltrate and rob him blind, or we pay the 20 million to Zabuza and send him off." "But where would he go?" Anko asked, slightly annoyed. "He probably became a missing nin to escape from the current Mizukage, who is going on a rampage against bloodline users. Kiri is in a state of civil war, so he probably wanted money so it could help to overthrow the Mizukage, Kakashi said, rubbing his chin in thought. He then nodded to himself, right. Naruto and I will handle Zabuza. Anko, you and Yugao head to the main base and see if you can lure out the Iowa ninja. Take Naruto's clone with you and see if you can end this today itself. Kakashi gave out his orders. Right, the 2 Jonin and 1 Genin nodded. Naruto made 5 clones, 4 of which would guard Tsunami. It wasn't needed since no one other than the current residents could see the house, but one can't be overprepared, Naruto mused. They then split up and headed to their respective locations. Naruto and Kakashi appeared via Shunshin to the clearing where he met Haku. Naruto immediately made hand signs. Boar dog bird monkey ram. Kuchio's no jutsu. In a puff of smoke, a small panther with reddish-brown fur and a light pink nose appeared before them. Oni-chan. The panther cried out happily. Hey, Majila-chan. Naruto smiled at his familiar. Kakashi was stunned. His genin was full of surprises. You have a summons. Naruto nodded. Before pulling out a senbon, Majila-chan, could you track the scent in this senbon and lead us there by your method of transport? Sure thing, Oni-chan. But do you have a snack? Majila asked, giving him the puppy eyes. Naruto sighed. It's a good thing you're cute and I like you, he said as he took out a strip of meat from a seal on his belt. Giving it to the panther who gobbled it up. She then sniffed the senbon, which fortunately wasn't coated in poison, but had the scent of a human in it. She then looked at Kakashi and said, hold on to me. Kakashi, who had been watching the byplay with amusement, blinked. He then shrugged and held on to the panther. Suddenly he had a sinking feeling as he felt like he was falling into a void. He couldn't yell out in surprise for as soon as it started, he then rose out into a different area of land. He shook off the feeling and gave the panther a glare, who returned it with an innocent look. Wait, where's Naruto? Right here. Said person came out of the shadows on his own, literally. So, did you enjoy shadow travel, sensei? He asked with a smirk. Kakashi gave a pointed look. I'm not traveling like that again. Besides, how were you able to do it on your own? Naruto smiled. Just a basic application of Fuinjutsu combined with the Nara clan jutsu. While I can't replicate shadow attacks, shadow travel is easy with a seal I had made in case the villagers ended up being meaner than usual. Maybe I should give it to Shikaku-san and Shikamaru. They'd probably find more use for it along with easier travel, he said. Kakashi shook his head. Whatever, let's go find Zabuza. We will need to be subtle. They might have traps nearby, he said as he and his student walked towards the building in front of them.
Asterisk 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 asterisk.
Anko, Yugao, and Naruto's clone stood in front of a huge building in the outskirts of the island. Naruto had his index and middle finger pressed on the ground, his eyes closed. There are around 200 signatures, of which only 2 are of Jonin level. The third one is of high Chunin to low Jonin level. I believe another 3 are my clones. The rest have as much chakra as a civilian or an academy student. The clone said. Yugao nodded. Very well. We'll lure out the Iowa nin to the bridge. Fighting here would be a problem. Clone-kun. She turned to the clone. You'll have to sneak in and take out Gato. As much as I or Anko would like to do it, we'll need to take care of Tamaharu, Makiko and Ichikawa. Try to finish him off and get any documents or money and get Kakashi-senpai to join us soon. We'll probably have the real you and the other genin deal with the thugs. The clone nodded and disappeared into the shadows. Anko blinked and shook her head. Of course, he has the shadow travel method. She then took out couple of kunai and looked at Yugao. Shall we blow some shit up, Taiko?
Asterisk 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 asterisk.
Haku applied some of the crushed herbs he had collected earlier to Zabuza's shoulder, which he had injured when he was hit against a tree. Zabuza-sama, you should be healed in 2 days. What do you plan to do? Zabuza growled. I'm going to take care of Kakashi. You'll have to take care of the blonde brat. I'll crush that Sharingan, and finally kill the bridge builder. As much as I hate Gato, he's paying us for the mission. You won't have to worry about Gato anymore soon enough, said a voice. Zabuza and Haku started and immediately took battle stances, only to see Naruto leaning against the wall and Kakashi on the windowsill. Kakashi raised a hand in greeting. Yo. You just saved me the trouble of coming to find you, Kakashi, Zabuza said, gripping the Kubikiribocho tightly. Don't make me call your bluff, Zabuza. We didn't come here to fight. In fact, we're here to offer a proposition. Don't make me laugh. What could you possibly have to offer us? How would you like to get paid double of what Gato offered to leave the bridge builder and his family alone? Kakashi asked. You think you can just buy me and make walk away? Not a chance. Zabuza-san, think about it. You were at 100% when we fought first. Now you can't perform jutsu, and with your shoulder injury, your kenjutsu will be less effective. Naruto said. Seeing Zabuza falter a little, and Haku paying attention, he continued, Gato made a small error. While the majority of his money is in his main base, he left a sum of 20 million ryo in his other base, not counting this one. I have the 20 million with me, and I know for a fact that Gato offered you 10 million for this job. Zabuza looked at Naruto. How do you know that, brat? Naruto tapped his nose. A ninja never reveals his secrets. Zabuza let out a chuckle. Very well, brat, but how can I trust you? Naruto took out a scroll and tossed it to Haku. Open it and count. Haku opened the scroll warily. He passed some chakra into it, and in a poof of smoke, multiple stacks of ryo notes fell out. 20 million ryo. Counted and sorted, Naruto said proudly. Kakashi had nothing else to do than look at his genin with pride. Naruto then turned serious. I've given you the money. Now you have no reason to fight us. And even if you want to, you aren't at 100% yet, whereas Kakashi-sensei is in top form. And I'm well aware of Haku's ice bloodline limit, he said, drawing shocked looks from those present in the room. How do you? Haku sputtered. Censor, Naruto said with a shrug. That's not possible. No one is that good. Zabuza exclaimed. Naruto smirked. I practiced. A lot. He then turned serious. So what's it going to be? Zabuza looked down in thought. On one hand, I've gotten the money. Plus it's not like I can fight these two, even with Haku. The brat is a pretty good censor, and I'm injured. To hell with it, I don't even like that pig anyway. With a sigh, he said, we won't fight you. We got what we wanted. Naruto nodded. Good. Plus we actually had info that Gato planned on double-crossing you after you finished us off. He actually hired Iwa Ninja for that. I believe you know Tomoharu Haskaya. He along with Ichikawa Sansetsu and Mikiko Kamizuru are there as well. Tomoharu. Oh, I've got a bone to pick with him, Zabuza said with a scowl. Just then, an explosion sounded in the distance. What was that? Haku exclaimed. That was the signal. I believe Anko and Yugao are luring out the Iwa Ninja and heading them towards the bridge. Kakashi said. Gato's dead, Naruto murmured, expression solemn. My clone has killed him and has gotten the location of the remaining money. Naruto looked at Kakashi. There's a small army of thugs headed towards Tazuna's house. Zabuza picked up his sword. Haku, go help the brat. Kakashi and I will help the ladies at the bridge. As you command, Zabuza-sama. The four ninjas split up and headed their separate ways. The battle for Nami was about to begin. Earlier, at Gato's main base, Gato was sitting back in his expensive leather chair, behind his expensive wooden desk, smoking and drinking the finest cigar and sake money could buy. He had built his reputation and empire around two emotions, greed and fear. In his office with him were his two bodyguards, Zori and Waraji, along with the Iwa Ninja, Tomoharu, Ichikawa and Mikiko. Zori was a young man in his mid-20s, with bluish-white hair and black eyes with tattoos lined beneath them. His partner, Waraji, was a little older with brown hair and a short beard, with an eye patch over his right eye. Gato was addressing the five people in the room. Zori, Waraji. That fool Zabuza may strike against that genin team today. I want you to take an army and go grab the bridge builder's daughter for some extra insurance. If they have backup, kill them. Getting nods from the two, he turned to the shinobi. You three, I want you to go to the bridge and kill off Zabuza if you see him struggling against that Kakashi. I have no use for him if he loses. Did you say Kakashi? As in Kakashi Hatake? Oh yes, I'm going to have my revenge today. Mikiko cackled. Calm down, Mikiko. We'll do as you say, sir, Tomoharu said, hiding a sneer at the little man-pig. Anything else was cut off as an explosion sounded in the front courtyard, which rattled the windows. What was that? Gato sputtered as he nearly fell off the chair. Makiko went and looked out the window and saw two women, one in the standard Konoha Junin uniform and the other in a tan trench coat. The trench coat wearing lady waved with a big grin and then flipped her off. The two women turned and jumped into the trees. It seems Konoha has sent their snake mistress Anko Mitarashi as backup. This should be interesting, Makiko said with a smirk. Gato slammed his fist into the table. I don't care. I want all of you to go about your assignments. Now, he roared. The ninja jumped through the window while his bodyguards ran out the door, rallying people to go up against the people of Wave. Gato got up to head out with his thugs when a cold voice called out. You won't be going anywhere. The next thing he knew, Gato was facing a pair of icy blue eyes before a foot connected to his face and his world went black. He was awakened with a hard slap to the face. Wow, what happened? He mumbled as he regained consciousness. Hello Gato. You're probably wondering why you're tied face down on your desk with your pants around your ankles and your ass in the air. It's because I want your undivided attention, his captor said, holding up a piece of paper. You see this? It's what we shinobi call an explosive note. You can guess what it does, right? Seeing Gato nod shakily, the assailant continued.
Good. Now one of these things placed in a strategic spot could level a good-sized building. You currently have two shoved up your ass and they don't get any more strategic than that. Gato whimpered and pleaded, but the man ignored it and approached the shipping magnate and knelt down until they were face to face. Remember me? I'd say it's nice to see you again, but I'd be lying. Arashi, Gato whimpered. Naruto patted Gato's cheek hard. Good boy. Now, you only have one chance. I want the deeds and money you have stolen. Not just from the people of Wave, but every place you stole from. Okay. In the basement behind the floor-to-ceiling map of the elemental nations is the vault. There are two keypads on opposite sides of the safe. Press 139-45250 on the left and 754-12484 on the right. You have to put in the code at the same time. Please, just let me go, Gato said desperately. Thank you for your cooperation, was all Naruto said before heading for the door. Wait. I told you what you wanted to know, please untie me. I don't recall making that offer, Naruto said coldly as he shut the door, blocking out Gato's screams. He made a half-ram seal, setting off the bombs in Gato. The resulting explosion, he guaranteed, was not pretty. With that done, Naruto headed towards the basement to complete the next part of the mission. Gato's dead. Anko and Yugo landed on the bridge after speeding through the forest. They could sense their pursuers closing in on them fast. They saw their teammate Hana along with the pink-haired genin guarding the bridge builder, while the rest of the workers were heading for their homes, as it was the evening. Hana. Pinky. Be on guard. We're going to have company, old man. Be careful, Anko shouted. Hana, Sakura and Tazuna tensed and kept their guard, Sakura placing herself in front of Tazuna, in spite of feeling a bit of fear. Don't worry, Sakura. We'll just do our job guarding Tazuna. Let the superiors handle this, one of Naruto's clones said as he landed beside her. Sakura gave a strained smile and nodded. She looked ahead to see three figures land in front of them. So Konoha sends the famous snake mistress, an unknown, and an Inuzuka to take us on? Always thought you lot were scum, the tall broad-shouldered man, Tomoharu, sneered at them. The three kunoichi scowled. Well, looks like we got a pig to roast, Anko said, licking her kunai. Where's Kakashi? I want to fight Kakashi, Makiko shrieked. Let's finish these ladies off first, Makiko. We might even have some fun with them if we leave them alive. The thin man, Ichikawa, leered at them, causing them to recoil. That does it, Hana growled, charging at the lean man, the triplets chasing after her. Yugo cursed. Damn it, Anko. You take on Makiko. I'll hold Tomoharu off. She dashed off toward the broad man, leaving Anko with the bug user. Hana jumped into the air and started spinning. Gatsuga. 4 human-sized tornadoes headed towards Ichikawa, who smirked. Doten. Tsuchi no Yoroi. He called out. The tornadoes crashed into him, but all Ichikawa did was step back a bit. Hana and her triplets had to fall back. Damn, what is that? It was like hitting a rock, Hana said. You like it? That's my earth armor. It's my strongest defense. Is that so? Then I'd like to test that. Ichikawa spun around to see a boy clad in gray and a red vest. His lower face was covered by a gray mask and he had a hood up. He held a tanto in his right hand. And what can a kid like you do? He taunted. More than you know. The boy's tanto lit up with red lightning, shocking Hana and Ichikawa. The man was even more shocked when the boy dashed towards him at speeds he could barely catch. Naruto had released the resistance seals on himself when he had made the clones earlier in anticipation of battle. Therefore, since the clones had the seals off, their speeds were around the high Jonin level. And the clones in the bridge had at least low Jonin level chakra in them since they hadn't used much. Naruto used the style of attacking with his tanto and then retreating, while secretly placing his lightning seals on Ichikawa's body with his chakra. Ichikawa defended against Naruto's attacks, but never realized the real danger he was in. Due to having earth armor, he was desensitized against soft contact. For a seal master like Naruto, it was perfect. Naruto jumped back next to Hana to get a little distance. Even with your lightning attacks, you're out of my league, Ichikawa taunted. No, you're out of our league. Goodbye. Naruto made a half-ram seal. The lightning seals activated at the same time, electrocuting the earth user. Not wasting time, Naruto dashed and cut off his head with his tanto. He then sealed the body into a scroll. Looking at a stunned Hana, he nodded. Enko vs Makiko. Kaden. Housenka no Jutsu. Fire style. Phoenix flower jutsu. Enko called out as she spat multiple fireballs in Makiko's direction, incinerating her bees in the process. Makiko cursed at her for destroying her precious bees. Damn you, bitch. No matter, you still won't be able to defeat me, she cackled.
Enko, not paying heed to her opponent's rambling, decided to charge at her and use taijutsu. Like many Aburame in Konoha, the Kamizuru clan had neglected their taijutsu, Makiko being one of them. While they could use it, they relied mainly on their insect-based attacks. Enko dominated the entire taijutsu bout, her training and sparring with Naruto paying off as she struck Makiko's vital points and finally, palming a kunai, got behind Makiko in a burst of speed and slit her throat.
Makiko, caught off guard, could not defend herself in time, and hence perished at Enko's hand, her dreams of revenge against Kakashi, remaining just that, dreams. Enko stared down her opponent's body and sighed. It was a short yet great battle. Sure, she wasn't pushed too hard, but it was nice to get out once in a while and have a good fight. She took out a scroll and sealed the body and decided to look around.
It seemed Hana had difficulty with her opponent, leading to Naruto's clone stepping in and defeating him. Really, how strong was the Gaki? His clone was enough to beat a Jonin. Sure, the man was high Chunin at best, but if his clone was that strong, then how strong was the original? They may have sparred and he had defeated her in some of them recently, but to gain such strength was, in her opinion, ridiculous. She looked at her other teammate. Yugao seemed to be struggling with her opponent. He was a broad-based earth user and Yugao's element was water, meaning something had to be done and fast. Yugao versus Tamaharu. Yugao cursed as she dodged another set of earth spikes. This battle had been to her disadvantage from the beginning. She had barely landed a few glancing blows on the man, but due to her elemental disadvantage, she couldn't do much. Her kenjutsu was negated by the fact that he used long-ranged attacks, hence preventing her from getting close. She wished Kakashi-senpai would hurry up. As though her prayers were answered, a cry of "Reikiri" was heard, forcing Tamaharu to move from the range of attack. However, he wasn't so lucky as he ended up with a cut on his right side. Yugao took a breath and then was caught off guard. Kakashi-senpai was standing next to Zabuza Momochi himself. What was he thinking? As though sensing her thoughts, Kakashi turned to her and said, "Sorry I'm late. I just had to help with convincing Zabuza to join us. It took a while though, but you can take rest, Yugao." He turned back to face Tamaharu. "I'll take it from here." Kakashi Hatake, and Zabuza Momochi, Tamaharu sneered. "Figured you would betray Gato. I never trusted a Kiri scum like you," he roared. Zabuza rolled his eyes. I don't work for a dead man. In fact, I believe you should have returned to Iowa now that you are the only one left. Tamaharu shook his head, gritting his teeth. I'm not letting the student of that man get away alive. With that, he charged. The battle progressed with Kakashi and Zabuza together, giving Tamaharu massive problems. Kakashi led the man away from the bridge, while Zabuza stayed behind using water attacks. While they weren't much, they succeeded in keeping Tamaharu distracted while Kakashi got up close and personal with him. Tamaharu struggled a lot due to having to avoid the Sharingan. Finally, a water dragon rose from the water and rushed towards the Iowa nin. He dodged the attack, only to look into Kakashi's Sharingan. He tried to undo the genjutsu, however that proved to be his undoing, as that split second was all Kakashi needed to shove a Reikiri into his heart, killing him instantly. Kakashi removed his hand from Tamaharu's chest, cutting off his head with a kunai in his other hand. Shaking his head, he sealed the man's head in a scroll. He was walking back towards the others when heard a sound. Turning around, they saw a crowd of the thugs facing them. They killed the ninja boss hired. They must be tired now. Let's get em. One of the thugs yelled to cheers. Kakashi sighed, then heard Zabuza chuckle. Sit back and relax, Kakashi. I'll take care of this rubbish. Yugao stepped up. I think I'll step in too. I felt useless back there and I have some frustration to let out. Me too, Hana said. Enko rushed to join. You wouldn't think of having a party without me now, would you? She asked with a grin. Kakashi chuckled lightly and walked backwards where he knew Sakura was, who was standing with a clone on Naruto, looking at them in awe. The 5 ninja faced the thugs and were about to charge when an arrow fell between the two groups. They turned around and saw a crowd of the villagers, led by Inari, Naruto, Sasuke and Haku. Don't come any closer, Inari shouted. Today we take back what's ours. The crowd cheered. Naruto, Sasuke and Haku walked up to Kakashi, who asked, how did it go? Naruto spoke up, it didn't last long. We collected Sasuke and intercepted the thugs as they made their way to Tezuna's place. A few fireballs enhanced with wind, water needles and kunais and the entire group was obliterated. He finished in a quiet tone. Kakashi nodded and looked towards Sasuke, who looked troubled. Are you all right? Sasuke nodded shakily. He realized now that killing was hard, even though it was part of shinobi life. He had taken down a large number of thugs himself along with help from Naruto. And to think Naruto had to bear the burden of taking out even more thugs beforehand. He understood the magnitude of the burden Naruto shouldered so that Sasuke wouldn't have much to deal with. After dealing with the thugs, they had made sure Tsunami and Inari were safe. Inari, however, managed to rally the crowd of Wave citizens to take back what was theirs. There was hope in his eyes again. Kakashi proceeded to comfort Sasuke about the killing of the thugs while Zabuza and the remaining kunoichi made short work of the thugs. The battle for Wave was over. They could all breathe easy now. Chapter text. It had been a week since Gato was killed, and the situation in Wave could not have been better. Naruto had managed to acquire 80 million ryo from Gato, of which he, along with the Konoha Jonin, gave 70 million to the people of Wave, taking 10 million as payment for the mission. Tezuna and the people of Wave had no qualms about that, as they knew that the ninja had risked their lives to save their country. To say that the people of Wave were relieved to be free was an understatement. The celebrations had lasted for days. On the 4th day, however, Naruto grew bored and decided to go out and train. He felt he had put off training for 3 days and had relaxed enough. Sasuke, not wanting Naruto to get ahead, decided to follow suit, which led to the entire group going out and training. Zabuza was impressed by the genin's drive, especially Naruto's, that he challenged the boy to a spar. He was even pleasantly surprised when Naruto brought out his sword. Though Zabuza had won the Kenjutsu spar, he respected Naruto's ability with the blade, and was even spotted helping him train with it, giving pointers and such. Sasuke had awakened the Sharingan during the fight with the thugs, leading to Kakashi taking him aside to have a talk about the dojutsu. Kakashi had expressly forbidden him from using the Sharingan to copy jutsu from comrades. Sasuke was outraged to hear that. The Sharingan was his to use by right and as he pleased. So what if he copied jutsu from anyone? He needed power to kill that man and avenge his clan. Kakashi seemingly shut that line of thought down by mentioning that only 3 or 4 Uchiha were the only ones who didn't succumb to the lure of the eye, wanting to get stronger without it. The Sharingan was just a tool in their arsenal. Shisui Uchiha was a master of the Shunshin, being able to frustrate enemies because they couldn't hit him or see him at all. Itachi had taken Genjutsu to a point that he didn't need his Sharingan, all he needed was to point a finger at someone. Kagami Uchiha was proficient in many fields, but his Kaden was to a point that he nearly surpassed Madara Uchiha. Sasuke's own mother, Makoto Uchiha, was able to substitute herself with even the smallest of objects. A leaf was sometimes more than enough. Sasuke had been deep in thought since then. He realized that if Itachi could get stronger without his Sharingan, he would too. He had asked Kakashi to train him. Kakashi just smiled and told him that they would resume training back in Konoha. For now, they would stick to spars, much to Sasuke's slight disappointment. The biggest surprise however had been Sakura. After seeing how the older Kunoichi fought, she had felt useless. She had always thought that if ever in a bind, Sasuke would save her like a knight in shining armor. She was jolted out of that fantasy when she saw what real ninja fought like. She was in awe of how the Kunoichi had handled themselves, even in losing battles. She knew that compared to them, she was weak. And she realized that Sasuke wouldn't always be there to save her. She had noticed, even before the mission, that Naruto and Sasuke had gotten closer as friends. While not friendly, Sasuke had been civil with Naruto, and not outright ignoring or mocking him as he used to. Sakura had resolved to start training seriously when she got back. However, she used the time in Wave to talk to Naruto and Kakashi, asking their help and in Naruto's case, apologizing profusely for her past treatment of him. Naruto had cautiously accepted, both relieving and slightly hurting her. Relieved that he had accepted, and hurt that he had to be cautious. Though she knew it was her own fault, she resolved to do better. Anko, Yugao and Hana had left the next day, taking with them the documents that had been pilfered from Gato to bring to the Hokage, who would decide what to do with them. In all likelihood, Gato's businesses, at least the legitimate ones, would be taken over by Konoha, while the illegitimate ones would be dealt with. While Anko had challenged Naruto to an all-out spar, Naruto replied that Wave wasn't the best place that they wanted to go all out. Flashback. Come on, Gaki. Just one spar. Anko whined. The two of them were sitting in the clearing where Naruto usually trained. At the moment, Naruto had about 50 clones doing who knows what in the clearing. Naruto shook his head. The last time the two of us had a spar, we pretty much trashed the place. Tell you what, we'll have that all-out spar in Konoha back at the Forest of Death. His grin turned sly. That should give you the home advantage. Anko scoffed and stuck her tongue out at him. Like I need an advantage like that to kick your ass, the two of them laughed. After a comfortable silence, Naruto spoke up, Anko Nichan. What's up, Gaki? Naruto hesitated, then took a deep breath. May I please have a look at your seal? Anko stiffened, bringing a hand to her left shoulder. Why? What brought this on? Naruto raised his hand, showing his Fuin bead bracelet. Ever since you showed me the seal, I've been thinking of a way to try and get rid of it. But to do that, I needed to find what its components were. I developed a seal that will help scan seals and try to break it down into, if I'm correct, its basic components. Once I'm able to find out what they are, I plan to coordinate with Jiraiya Kyofu, and with his help we should be able to work on a way to get rid of it. Anko thought for a second, then reluctantly nodded. Fine, have at it Gaki. She gave a small smile. Even Jiraiya-sama hasn't been able to find a cure for it. But I guess you can give it a shot. Naruto rolled his eyes. Your vote of confidence is appreciated, Nichan. Though would you prefer Yugao-ne or Hana-san to be with you? Anko snorted. Brat, I trust you, but not enough to go topless. Naruto shrugged and made a clone to find Yugao and give her their location. A few minutes later, Naruto sensed a chakra signature and took down the barrier he had around the clearing just in time for Yugao to appear via Shunshin. Yugao took a look around and saw the Naruto clones at work, then saw Anko and Naruto sitting on a rock. "What's wrong, Naruto-kun? Your clone told me to meet you and said it was something only that the three of us should hear." Naruto then explained the situation to her, leaving her wide-eyed. "You mean to tell me that there is a way to remove the seal?" Naruto raised his hands. "Well, it's a work in progress. But I think once I present my findings to both Jiraiya Kyofu and Hokage Jiji, we should be able to come up with a solution. It would take time though." Yugao just shook her head. The boy was doing Anbu-level stuff at 12 years of age. And his Fuinjutsu was at least on par with Kushina-sensei's. "I'm pretty sure he'll surpass you, Kushina-sensei. You would be so proud of him right now," the Anbu thought with a smile, internally snickering at an image of Kushina sporting a huge grin and having a victory sign at her son's accomplishment, feeding him unholy amounts of ramen while gushing about how proud she was. She shook her head sadly and focused on the task at hand. "Fine, I'll help." "Great. Now, Anko Nichan, could you, he blushed. Anko rolled her eyes. Yeah, I'll take my coat off." "Seriously, Gaki, how are you going to ask that Hyuga girl out when you can't even look at me topless without blushing?" "That's different," Naruto protested. Anko waved him off and proceeded to remove her trench coat and mesh undershirt. "Yeah, I'm ready, Naruto." Getting his blush under control, Naruto schooled his features and approached Anko. Making 5 hand signs, he raised the bracelet to be at the level of the seal. Yugao and Anko watched with confusion as Naruto stared into thin air, initially in concentration, then having various expressions go through his face: confusion, worry, amazement, and finally anger. What Naruto was actually doing was looking at a screen visible only to him, showing the breakdown of the complex seal by Orochimaru. After a few minutes, Naruto sighed as he made 2 clones, who took out scrolls and started jotting down points and various diagrams. When they finished, Naruto summoned 2 panthers, much to the Kunoichi's surprise, and handed them the scrolls, telling them to give the scrolls to Jiraiya and the Hokage. The panthers nodded and after a few licks goodbye, disappeared into the shadows. Anko couldn't contain her curiosity any longer. "Well," she demanded. Naruto sighed. "I hate Orochimaru for what he did to you. I hate him for deserting the village and causing Jiji a lot of pain. And, I hate to admit it, but this," he pointed to the seal, "is a thing of beauty. It has layers upon layers of sealing, but it can be divided into 3 components. He is proficient, but not a seal master." Taking a deep breath, he looked at the 2 kunoichi. "From what I suspect, and I've relayed the same to the 2, I shall tell you 2 out of the 3 components. The third one is a theory that I wish to disclose only after confirmation. So I don't care that you're senior in rank to me. As a seal master, certified by Jiraiya himself, I have the right to withhold information on seals. So don't ask me about it. Understand?" he said sternly, leaking a bit of his aura. Anko and Yugao were shocked by the stern demeanor he exuded. It was on par with one of the Sannin, if not the Sandaime himself. For a moment, Yugao thought she was in front of the Yondaime again. The 2 kunoichi nodded rapidly. "Good, just like that, the aura was gone." Naruto continued, lifting a finger. "The first component contains enzymes that actually enhance your chakra. But with it also comes a drug that enhances and feeds off your negative emotions. It causes you to become addicted and more aggressive the more you use the seal. Worst part is, it also comes with a paralysis seal and a suicide seal that would allow him to stop you whenever he wanted." He raised a hand to quell any protests. "The good news is, this is one part of the seal that I can remove on my own. The other 2 may need Jiraiya Kyofu's opinion." Anko swallowed but nodded. Even if it was a small part, she was glad that there was a chance of removal. "Well, can you get it off now?" Naruto shook his head. "I'll need to work on a seal that can take it off without activating the other 2 parts. I should have it within a few days after reaching Konoha. Rest assured that I'll be working on it." He was then tackled to the ground by a very excited Anko, planting kisses all over his face. "Thank you, thank you, thank you," she kept repeating over and over. Anko and Nichan, she can't breathe." Naruto sputtered while blushing. "Ah, does the Gaki like being smothered by his Anko Nichan?" "Don't worry Gaki, Your Anko-ne-sama shall make you immune to seduction before you ask the Hyuga girl out. I won't have my Otudo blushing the moment he sees a pair of tits, got it? Anko said, pumping her fist into the air. Yugao just watched the entire scene in amusement. This was the happiest she had seen her friend over the years. She hoped Naruto would be able to help as soon as possible. End flashback. Anko had been in a very good mood since then, and no one decided to question why. A happy Anko meant everyone was safe, for now. Currently, Team 7 along with Zabuza and Haku stood in front of Tazuna, Tsunami, Inari and the people of Wave near the completed bridge. The entire country had come out to see off the ninja who had saved them from Gato's tyranny. Inari was crying. He had come to view Naruto as an older brother of sorts, someone who could understand him, and after a heart-to-heart, the two were near inseparable. He had even joined to help out Tazuna in helping to build the bridge. With more people coming out to help along with Naruto's shadow clones, the bridge had been completed in a mere 5 days. Tazuna bowed to the ninja. Thank you all. For all your help. Thanks to you, Wave has a chance to prosper again. We hope you'll visit us sometime soon, once we get up and running, he said as the other nodded in agreement. Zabuza cracked his neck. Well, as fun as this was, we must be off. Thanks for the fight, Kakashi. But know that the next time we meet, I'm definitely going to win. He extended his hand. Kakashi shook his hand with an eye smile. We'll see, Zabuza. I'll admit I haven't enjoyed a spar in a while. Zabuza nodded and looked to Haku, who was talking to Naruto. Thank you, Naruto-kun. I hope we meet again, he said, pulling Naruto into a shoulder hug. Don't worry, Haku, you'll be seeing me sooner than you think, he whispered, much to the other boy's confusion. He continued, when you reach the rebel base, ask for Tendo. He will help. Just say, bloodlines don't make a shinobi. Naruto let Haku go. Zabuza and Haku turned and ran across the bridge. After a while, they jumped into the trees and out of sight. Kakashi looked over at his team. Well, we better be off as well. Let's go. He bowed to the people. Thank you for letting us stay, Tazuna, Tsunami-san. He turned and started walking off, Sasuke and Sakura following him. Naruto bowed to the people. Thank you all. And Inari. He patted the crying boy on the head. It's okay to cry when you're happy. Promise me that you'll protect your family. I'm sure Kaiza would be proud of you, he said, bringing tears to Tsunami's and Tazuna's eyes. Inari sniffled but nodded with a determined gaze. I will, Ni-san. Naruto smiled and nodded. With another bow, he turned and flash-stepped toward his team, startling them, if the scream from his female teammate was any indication. Kami. He loved the Shunpo. It was almost up there with the Shunshin and his own Zanzo no Jutsu. Tazuna shook his head. Those shinobi gave hope to every single one of us. Especially Naruto. He gave hope and courage to Inari, and in turn the others in this country. Tsunami nodded. What should we name the bridge, Chu-san? How about the Tazuna Super Bridge? Tazuna puffed his chest out, only to receive a deadpan look from the people. Okay. Definitely not that. He scratched the back of his head. Let's name it after Naruto Ni-san. Inari shouted to the approval of the people. Tazuna nodded. Very well. From this day forth, the bridge will be known as the Great Naruto Bridge. He declared to cheers from the crowd.
Asterisk.
Hiruzen read Naruto's report on Orochimaru's cursed seal with a worried expression. He couldn't believe Orochimaru had sunk to such depths to make this kind of seal. Naruto's theories on the 3 components worried him, but it was the third and final component that had him stumped. While the first and second components are worrying, they can be identified. The third component, however, is what confuses me. I believed initially that it was Orochimaru's chakra, which would blend with the victim's chakra and boost it along with the chakra booster enzymes, but I do not believe so anymore. For one, the chakra is, for a better term, sentient. It is like it has a consciousness that can think for itself, and that worries me. Yes, even Hiruzen was worried, reading that section. What could possibly be the component that was sentient? Sentient forms of chakra could only mean the Biju. Had Orochimaru managed to harness Biju chakra and put it in the seal? He shook his head. That would have been dangerous, and even lethal. Besides, the second component also had a different form of chakra, which was, if Naruto was correct and should Jiraiya confirm it, natural energy. So it was hard to believe that the third component would also be chakra. Orochimaru was evil, not stupid. He was jolted out of his thoughts when a knock sounded on the door. Shaking his head, he put away the report in a secret drawer and schooled his features. Enter. He called out. The door opened, and Hiruzen's eyes widened a bit before they narrowed dangerously at the person he least expected to show up in his office. Tall, black-haired with a bandage covering his right eye, wearing a gray and black kimono and having his right arm covered by the black part of his kimono, making it appear like a sling. Danzo Shimura, his old friend and rival, entered. Danzo, you have some nerve coming in here right now. How may I help you, old friend? Hiruzen spoke with a bit of sarcasm at the end, his voice carrying a hint of steel. Danzo internally sighed. He knew that meeting his old friend would start off bad. After all, he had spent the last 12 years trying to undermine his rule so he could become the Hokage. But now, in truth, he was tired. Tired of the infighting between the two of them. While he did have the dream of Konoha's glory on top of the world, the talk he had just after Hiruzen dissolved the civilian council put things into perspective. Flashback. Danzo sat in his office, seething about the fact that Hiruzen had pretty much negated his only way of undermining his rule. He didn't want to resort to Shisui's Sharingan, but it turned out the only way he could gain any control was to use it. He was patient, however. He could wait until the perfect time when he could use it on the daimyo should something come up. It seemed Orochimaru had a plan to invade Konoha and kill Hiruzen. He would wait and see how that played out. He was brought out of his musings when his route appeared before him. What is it? Danzo asked, his voice holding the barest hint of irritation. Naruto Uzumaki is here to see you, Danzo-sama. He says he wishes to talk. The agent said in an emotionless tone. Danzo's surprise was reduced to a mere uplifting of his eyebrow. As far as I know, the boy is on a mission in Wave Country. It is odd that he is here at this time. He said to himself. He stood up. Very well. Dismissed, he said as he walked out his office. 5 minutes later, he arrived at the entrance to see 4 of his agents surrounding the Uzumaki boy. He had noticed that the boy had changed his attire from that ridiculous orange jumpsuit to a more neutral color. A burnt orange mesh undershirt covered by a gray shirt with sleeves up to the elbow, gray Anbu pants wrapped in dark red bandages and a red vest with a gray hood, Naruto Uzumaki stood before him with an impassive expression. Not even a single shred of fear despite being at the end of multiple swords, Danzo noticed. Interesting. He's different from what he portrayed himself as in the past few years, he thought. Well, this is interesting. I never would have imagined I'd be meeting you here of all places, Uzumaki, let alone you coming here. I'm interested to know how you know of this place. Not to mention, how you are here when you should be on a mission outside the village, he commented. The boy shrugged. I've known about this place for 4 years now. And I also know what it is, the headquarters to your route, which should have been disbanded. But I know the old man turned a blind eye because you were useful to the village. By the way, I'm only a shadow clone, so you might want to tell your agents to be careful, or they'll cause me to disappear and so I won't be able to deliver the message I want to deliver, the boy, or rather, his clone said with an emotionless face. Danzo made a sign, and his agents backed off, still keeping the clone at sword point. Cool. Well, I guess you want to know the reason for my visit. It's to offer a mutually beneficial alliance. I know that you've tried to get me into your route ever since the Kyuubi was sealed into me. While I have no interest in being a mindless weapon, I also know that with the current attitude of the villagers towards me, it would take a while to have a somewhat peaceful life in the village. I even know that Itachi killed the clan on your orders, Naruto revealed. Danzo's eye narrowed at that. The boy knew too much for his liking. But his offer of a mutually beneficial alliance was intriguing. You don't seem to mind the death of the Uchiha clan. And what would I get from this alliance? As far as I know, you were the dead last of the class. If anything, you should have been assigned to me from the start. Naruto just raised an eyebrow and shrugged. Aside from a few, I didn't like the Uchiha much. Believe it or not, they were among my chief tormentors back in the day. Not to mention, they tried to usurp the old man's power with the coup d'etat, he found out, struck before they could, and they paid the price. You're the root that supports the tree that is Konoha. I know you've dealt with threats to Konoha for many years from the shadows. I also know you're after the Hokage's hat. I'm sorry to say, that the daimyo would never choose you as long as there are other suitable choices. And the Sharingan you took from Shisui Uchiha won't help either. Have any Hyuga there, you're pretty much busted, Naruto said. Danzo looked like he wanted to attack, but Naruto raised his hand. Hit a nerve. Don't worry, aside from you, Itachi and I, no one knows. I don't plan on telling the old man your secret. I don't even plan on telling about the Mokuden arm with the 10 Sharingan attached to it, though I wonder why you'd need that. Not to mention it's disgusting, Naruto made a face. Either way, it's not my business that you're into grave robbing, though in essence you're pretty much committing treason, he said, much to Danzo's increasing ire. No, my interest is to gain power in the village, and to bring our village back into power. I believe it will be easier once I let loose in the Chunin exams. Right now, not many know that I held back at the academy. Konoha has been sleeping for the past 12 years. First we needed to rebuild after the Kyuubi attack, then the Uchiha massacre happened, costing us 1/5 of our military. The vacuum of power left by that is still yet to be filled. In the past we had many powerful shinobi in the village, and with Uzushio we had a very powerful ally. We let Uzushio be destroyed by Aiwa, Kumo and Kiri because we didn't expect the attack. And by the time our forces reached there, it was too late. While the other 3 villages lost more ninja, they could afford it with their greater numbers. We let the White Fang, Tsukumo Hatake, commit suicide over a discrepancy in opinion. He saw his comrades more important than the mission, and the others saw it differently. But letting one of our legends who could have been the Yondaime before my father die because of that. We are founded on the will of fire, something founded by Hashirama Senju and taken up by Tobirama Senju himself. If we didn't have the teamwork and high regard for the lives of our shinobi, we wouldn't have become as great as we are. Don't get me started with the Sannin. Only Jiraiya is currently loyal to Konoha. Orochimaru is a traitor and Tsunade caught up in her grief. Meaning 2 of our most powerful ninja are unavailable to us. I don't need to mention the deaths of my parents. The Yellow Flash and the Red Hot-Blooded Habanero were powerful shinobi in their own right. My dad pretty much single-handedly took down Aiwa, and my mother laid waste to Kumo and Kiri shinobi in her time in the war, and that was without using her Jinchuriki powers. She was strong enough to go toe-to-toe with the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Add in Makoto and Fugaku Uchiha, the Queen of Kawarimi and the Demon Eyes themselves, and we had an unstoppable quartet. Too bad the latter 2 were involved in the coup, Naruto said with a sad expression. He had liked Makoto. She had been one of the kinder Uchiha to him, always taking time to drop in his apartment and getting him some fresh food and new clothes. She would even spend time with him telling stories of his mother. All this was done in secret, however, due to the growing unrest between the Uchiha and the village. He still remembered the sad expression on her face the day before what he knew was the massacre. The last thing she had asked him to do was look out for her 2 sons. With a confused but determined look, he had nodded. He still remembered her smile and her words. Kushina would be proud of you, Naruto-chan. I know I am, she had said before kissing his forehead and walking out his apartment. The next day, the massacre had happened. Naruto had been devastated but didn't show it during his training with Tobirama. Though since then, on the anniversary of the massacre and on his birthday, he would visit Makoto's grave as well as his parents to pay his respects. Collecting himself, he continued, which leads us to Itachi. To kill your clan, especially your family, to protect the village is a huge sacrifice. Itachi is one of the village's true heroes. He is also acting as eyes outside the village along with Jiraiya. But that takes another one of our ninjas out of the village. Finally, the decreasing strength of both you and the Sandaime. We need more strong ninja that can bear the burden of our village in the future. My generation has some real talent. We have the potential, but it needs to be properly cultivated. About 3 years to develop. While you and the Sandaime are powerful, as the god and darkness of shinobi, the old man is too worn out to be that leader, and you aren't exactly Hokage material, as well as crippled from the war and wouldn't stand a chance against someone like Itachi at full power. You need a symbol outside of Root that will be your representative. And that is what I have to offer. I will be your representative. You know my heritage. I'm the prince of this village, which I plan to reveal during the Chunin exams. I think the same way my great-grandfather did. We need to bring our village back to power. And we need symbols out there that can show the other villages that we didn't lose any of our strength since the Third War. I'm currently working on my team along with Kakashi-sensei to bring it up to speed. It may not last beyond the Chunin exams, but I'm going to do my best. I've worked with Hinata Hyuga on her Jukin and even got her to branch out to other fields. A Hyuga as a medic would be extremely beneficial to the team and to Konoha. Hopefully my drive will be able to snap Kakashi-sensei into training even more, that maybe, should Tsunade refuse the hat, which she most likely will, the old man has a chance to pass the hat on to Kakashi-sensei. He has already solved quite a few of the problems right now and the rest are on their way. I can be the leader of the new generation when they are old enough to lead the village. While I do want to be Hokage, I first want to make a name for myself out there. It would be fitting to make them fear the Uzumaki and Senju name again, wouldn't it? And there's plenty of time to take the hat in my 30s or 40s. Why would I want to be chained to an office before it's necessary? Danzo had to admit, no matter how painful it was for him, that he was impressed. The boy had made some good points. Much power had been lost to the village, which was his main gripe with Hiruzen. He had also underestimated the boy. To think he had been holding back this entire time. His thoughts went to whether Hiruzen had actually had the boy trained in secret, or was there someone else. Whatever said and done, Uzumaki had very good information gathering skills, almost as good as his root agents, if not better. He was also cunning, having sent the information to the Hokage in secret, forcing his rival to act. Losing Naruto would be a catastrophe to Konoha. And all this was without the Kyuubi. He had to wonder, how strong was he, really? And the part where he offered to be Danzo's representative also sounded appealing. However, nothing was for free. So what do you want for being my representative? Danzo asked. Access to your library, training facilities, and information. Your true power is not your skill or the number of ninjas. They may look impressive, but other than Fu, Torun, or even that ink-using guy, most of them are barely mid-jonin level. And the 3 I mentioned would barely stand a chance against Kakashi-sensei. Your true power is based on information. If the old man wanted, he could have stopped all this and executed you for treason. But he knows that there are threats you need to take care of in the shadows. Plus, your information network is too valuable to just throw it away. Naruto said. Danzo nodded. I see. Very interesting. I will agree to your conditions, Uzumaki, or should I say Senju. It will be interesting to see if you indeed have the strength to reach your goals and bring Konoha back to the top. I knew the Nadaime well, and if you're half the man he was, you have a glorious future ahead of you. Thank you, Danzo-sama. Naruto said with a bow. Though you should have a talk with the old man. Instead of being rivals, you two can work together in weeding out the spies. It would help pave the road for the next Hokage. I will think about it. You may leave, Danzo said curtly. Very well, Naruto replied. With a smirk, he left a parting shot. See you soon, great Uncle Danzo, he said before disappearing into smoke, leaving a wide-eyed Danzo. Flashback end. No one, not even Hiruzen, knew of Danzo's secret wife and son, who turned out to be the sister of Yashiro Uzumaki, the then clan head of the Uzumaki clan, and father of Kushina. They were killed in the siege, causing Danzo to walk the path he was on currently. But after the talk with Naruto, he had done some thinking of his own, and if he were honest with himself, he was tired of it all. All the scheming, plotting and wanting to undermine Hiruzen's rule, he wanted it to end. He knew that Hiruzen would destroy him in a heartbeat. And he didn't want that. He could maybe pass on his knowledge to his grandnephew. I wish to come clean, Hokage-sama, he replied. Hiruzen was caught off guard, though his surprise was reduced to merely a raised eyebrow. Danzo would rarely address him as such, and only with great reluctance. The fact that he addressed him like that spelled trouble. "What's your game, Danzo?" he asked with narrowed eyes. "No games, Hokage-sama. I have been doing some thinking of my own. And frankly, I'm tired." Hiruzen's brow furrowed. "Tired, you say?" Danzo nodded. "Yes, tired of undermining your rule. Tired of trying to usurp the Hokage position. Tired of everything," he said. "May I?" He gestured to one of the chairs, where he sat at Hiruzen's nod. "That's unusual, Danzo. You're being frank with what you're saying, in spite of it pretty much bordering on treason, if not outright treason." Danzo nodded. "I know. I also know that you know I haven't disbanded my organization. The only reason my head is still on my shoulders is because of the fact that you value my information, or else it would have left them long ago. No, I have no wish to continue. What I'd like to do is help with the slow integration of the soldiers into the regular Anbu forces. A subdivision, if you will, answerable to the Hokage and the Anbu commander." Hiruzen leaned back in thought. He could detect no lie from Danzo. He had known about Danzo's right eye before, since while he was not a sensor, he was strong enough to sense foreign chakra in Danzo's eye similar to Kakashi's left eye. And he had felt Danzo using the eye on him some days, but his training with Kagami Uchiha had helped him gain a sense of the genjutsu from the Sharingan and how to dispel them. He felt no such chakra or presence from Danzo now. And Danzo's idea did have appeal to it. "Your idea does have appeal. I still have to sort out many other laws the Civilian Council had passed during the vacuum period, as well as elevate the Academy standards. Not to mention the financial discrepancies. Having some of your agents helping mine would work," Hiruzen said finally. He then steepled his fingers together, "though it does beg the question, why now?" Danzo sighed. For the first time since Hiruzen saw him, he looked tired. "I had a talk with Naruto the other day." Hiruzen immediately became alert, but ease. "I know." Danzo raised a hand. "He's resourceful, that one. Had a clone talk to me while he's on a mission. You know as well as I do, that he has been hiding his true powers from the village. As of now the only one who knows his full potential is you. You've trained him well," he said with a bit of accusation in his voice. Hiruzen relaxed and chuckled. "Train? I wish. I merely nudged him here and there. A few stories sprinkled in as well. But the fact that he spoke to you at your own hideout, something that only you and I know, speaks volumes of his skills." Danzo nodded. "I am aware. But yes, we talked. And he did have some valuable points. While we are powerful, our powers are waning. I now realize that we should leave it to the next generation and just act as advisors or mere pointers in the right direction. The current generation has potential, but we need a Hokage who can help them out." Hiruzen slowly nodded. "I do have an idea on whom to pass the hat to. I shall have a talk when they get back. I believe they should be back in a few hours. After all, the normal pace of travel doesn't really suit Naruto-kun. He's a bit impatient, if you will," he finished with a chuckle. "Hiruzen, if I may ask, how strong is he?" Danzo asked. "Put it this way, Danzo," Hiruzen replied, leaning forward. "Had he been born in our time and he had this level of power, the two of us would never have even been in contention for the position of the Sandaime. At this point, give it a few years, and maybe when he's in his 20s, he would, hypothetically, be able to take on the 4 Hokages in their prime, and win, with barely a scratch on him." To be continued. I hope you enjoyed this story. Also remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.